Hey folks, happy Sunday. This Sunday happier than most because tomorrow's not a work day for me. All right. Let's make some room here. We have kind of a Class A clusterfuck happening. Got a bit of stuff done yesterday. Got jalapeno popper done. Bug bite. Now we're working on, let's just say it's going to be called Junkyard Dog for the moment. So, kind of thrilled to be able to use this vehicle. I had apprehensions about what to call it, what to arm it with, what have you. I don't think we'll need this moment. Disheveled appearance in the work area. All right. A loose magnet, run. Let me get this stuff out of the side here. We may or may not need some of that. Okay, so this vehicle that I was so excited this thing has good tires. Probably take this thing apart. Load lifter, yeah, it's not useful. I really got this thing for this little arm, and yeah, it's not glued down, and everything else is kind of immaterial. But this has good wheels. Good wheels. So this is going to end up getting glued or attached like this. In order to finish the job, we're going to need to put a piece of something, a little plate there or something, because on the original vehicle it had it was like a scoop and that attached underneath there. Which is weird, they would have done it that way, because then you would leave a gap there, but that's how they designed the vehicle. So I need to get some scrap plastic and put like a little plate on both of those sides. Man, I can't even look into that. Here we go. The scrap plastic should be... I'm not going to check and see if I have one started. Well, look, I've got one started. That was easy. I'm not gonna look into finding it. Oh, I found it. This isn't one of those cooking shows where it's like, man, they got everything laid out. Yeah, the people that are doing the show don't lay any of that stuff out. That's just for the plebs that are, organizing everything. But yet the show can't go on without them. All right, so just a little piece of, doesn't even have to be very big. I would rather use scissors. It's easier to cut a straight line. Heck, that even fits next to it. But I need it to be a little wider than this. Let's straighten this out. See, where does that cut go into? About there. That's perfect. That's perfect right there. Okay. The question is this end perfect too? Pretty much, okay. So, I don't really want it lower than the bottom of this. Good morning. Does that mean you're walking or you're on your mobile connection? My daughter went out to New Orleans this last week. I wasn't with her. She was telling me about a trip yesterday. We're doing our weekly shopping. And she said, yeah, we stopped in Mobile, Alabama. Like, well, that's how it should be pronounced, but they decided not to do that. Yeah, I think that's good. This is the one that's too short. Okay, so it's this one. Right? Yeah. Okay, something's not adding up here. Okay, it needs to be like that. So this logo is towards the bottom. Okay, now it makes sense. Now we have the same length there. I'll be right there. Garden adventures await. I use Viejo camo olive green on the Soviet trucks, and you see how it looks after a wash. Camo olive green. Did you use the right one? Is it $8.94? That sounds like $8.94. That's the right one. That's the right one. Remember, paint it whatever color you want. Do that brown wash. And then if it's too brown, take that same color and dry brush over lightly with that same color again. And that'll nail it. And then add a little bit of, if you want, desert sand, Vallejo, a little bit into that $8.94. And then dry brush a little bit over that. Then add a little bit more of the $8.94 in it, and then dry brush over that and frickin' nail it. That's how I've done all mine, and it looked great. You're like, that's a boring looking Soviet vehicle. When you're done with it, you're like, man, these guys look cool, you know. And that's just what I would call, that's the fade on the paint of the vehicle. Like, that's not weathering. That's just the fade on the paint of the vehicle. $8.94. That's the right one. That's the new right one. They reformulated it. You know. Everybody does it. You know, it's like somebody comes up with some dick idea to make more money. Oh, we could do that dick idea to make more money. No, the way I look at it is people convince you, okay, this is the color that it's supposed to be. And then 3 years later, no, it's really this one. Well, then why were you lying to me before? Right? What makes you think that you're not lying to me now? No, I really mean it. This is the correct color. Those poor Soviet trucks, they look like ass. They look like the Waltons. They're like, what, a Ford Model A, I think, built under license? I bet those commies didn't pay for a single fucking license. Never give the communists credit. Their credit's no good. Yeah, that's the color that the painting guides on for Flames of War and stuff. I don't play Flames of War, but they have a lot of, like, useful information there. As I'm sure you're aware of. And I've mentioned, a whole bunch of times. Okay. And this one goes on this side. Okay. Now, what's holding this up? Well, right now what's holding this up is to keep it from being completely flat is this part of the track. There and there. Now, can I see those marks? And not confuse them with something else. There and there. And is the other one this one? Well, one of them is definitely this one right here. Okay, and then the other one, because it's not sitting completely flush. It's sticking out a little bit, so I'm going to cut that down. Oh, such precision for a pizza chip. let's see how this fits in here. Okay, it still sticks out a little bit. Why? Because of this right here also. So we're going to come in here and we're going to remove this. Well, it's a good thing that I wasn't filming late into last night because we had a hell of a storm. Lightning and shit. And well, I like the rain. We can use the rain. We have no use for lightning. There we go. Now that sits flush. Like so. Okay, we'll do the same thing on the other side. Desert yellow or a sans color? I would have used white back in the day. But according to that Australian dude, what's his name? Sledgehammer Studios or whatever. He uses dark sand. Dark sand. So not quite Iraqi sand. It's a little warmer than Iraqi sand. That's Iraqi sand. Dark sand is RAL 1001. So it's 847. I mean, Iraqi sand would work too. And just a little bit in it. It works great. That's how I got my Soviet trucks. I love the Soviet trucks. Well, I mean the model design looks like ass, but there's nothing you could do about that. You know, and I use that on everything, on all the tanks to lighten them up. So it's consistent. That's not weathering, just fading the paint. The weathering, we still do the 3 colors that we do. And you know, are there better ways to weather? Maybe. But I'll tell you what, for the amount of effort that I put into it and the consistency that you can get from one model to the other, it works great for me. Yeah, so when I was looking at how to do tanks, I mean, I know what I wanted them to look like. So you go around kind of looking and see who's doing stuff. And I came across this guy's website, this guy's YouTube channel, and I like what he was doing. It was simple. It was products I kind of already had. I think at the time he was using like Agrax Earthshade for the brown, which you know was available back then. It's still available. It's just they changed the formula and it's like sticky. So I just use the strong tone for the wash. You know, I didn't want to build 50 tanks and not be happy with them and go like, man, I should have done something else. So I spent some time looking at other people doing stuff. And there's people that, you know, do some amazing jobs, but honestly, it's just too many damn steps sometimes. I mean, I'm already doing 12 or 13 steps or something like that. So, more isn't always better. I'm sure he probably got some of his ideas from somebody else. You know, that's how you get from being in the dark ages. Like, man, we got to share information. Not everybody trying to figure out the same thing. Like my painting has gotten infinitely better since since the internet, and exponentially better since YouTube. Let's get ideas from other people. You see something, I don't like that. Cool, move on to something else. Or that's not my thing. Or like people that love doing the little sponge with doing the chipping. I don't like that. Even when people that are masters of doing it, and there's a couple of people that are masters, it doesn't look right to me. It's the whole thing of, what do you dry brush a tire to make it look like there's dirt, or do you give it a wash so that the dirt is actually inside the grooves? The right way to do it is inside the grooves, but it looks wrong to my eye, So I'd rather not like paint something where I'm doubting myself all the time. Also, Ford licensed the same model in Germany before the war, so I wonder if any of the German-produced ones worked their way into wartime use. Maybe. I've never seen a Model A Ford in German service unless it was a captured Soviet tank. But Ford licensed some. I don't know if they're licensed or they're manufactured in Germany or they were manufactured in the U.S. and shipped to Germany, but they had several Ford models, which are very Opel Blitz looking. I don't know, you're getting excited about trucks. There's nothing wrong with that one. Most people just discount them. If you're playing a skirmish game, hey, at least the trucks, you can hop in the truck and run over people, right? Like you're at one of those Christmas fairs in Europe. You could still, it's on that level, right? Where you can like take an individual person, take a vehicle that's not armed, so to speak, and like cause damage to, soldiers. I mean, they'd probably be shooting at you while you're doing it, But if you're playing something like Micro Armor, where it's just a way to get your infantry from on the board here, and then when they're done, you just go park them in some depot somewhere so they don't get shut up and you lose points for losing the units. They're not as exciting. I was playing a homemade scenario of Advanced Squad Leader many years ago with this guy who would run a blind Advanced Squad Leader game. We only did that like 4 times. But there was this game, this scenario that he designed that was in France. And what did I have? I want to say it was German paratroopers, but that doesn't make sense. Anyways, whatever it was that I had some half squads or something. And they have some Char B hanging around in town, or a couple of them. And like, I had like a Stug or something that I didn't have anything really reliable to knock them out. It was, France 1940 type of thing, type of a scenario. And good morning, Kevin. Ford factory building in Germany before the war made many trucks for the Wehrmacht. Good Sunday morning. It's raining, but I don't have to go outside. Yeah, we had a hell of a storm last night. My mom was here locally. And she used to live 7 down, or she still lives 7 doors down from where we used to live. We lived there for like 20 years. And then we moved out here, which is the town I work in. It's only one exit north on the interstate. It's not like it's that far. But she had and she's, I guess you would call her elderly. But anyways, we didn't want her driving her, she thought it wasn't a good idea to drive. So we picked her up, brought her up here, and we were going to take her back home. And it was raining so bad. And the lightning and the water drainage is just, I think it was trying to rain everything that it didn't rain in the last 4 months. We've really got no rain 4 months. Might be even longer than that. Might have been all year. And let's see how much rain we got. We got a shitload of rain. Rain's really weird though, as far as I bet we didn't get more than 3 or 4 inches. See if the stats are up for it. I'm glad it wasn't a work day yesterday. Let's put it that way. That would have been a nightmare. Okay, let's search. For this town, and let's go to calendar. And let's go to, where are we? What was yesterday? Saturday? Is this in May? Oh, you changed me to another town, you dickweed. Okay. Yep. Let's look at calendar. Oh, well, let's pick the station that's right next to where I'm at. Now show me the calendar. It's being difficult. It's not showing me what it rained yesterday. Oh well, they probably don't have the stats for it yet. I know there was a couple days ago we got what I would call a bit of rain all day long. And I looked at it at the end of the day and it was like a couple days later and it was 0.67 of an inch. I'm like, well, that isn't anything, you know? You think east half of US got rain. Good day not to fly. But that was a mess. Yeah, we could certainly use it. Have no use for lightning though. Okay, so if we glue this on here, I want to make sure this isn't going to telescope past the end of this and create an issue. No. Okay. Let's get Gluelandia back out here. See, I don't know how many of you guys were watching this last night. I don't think I got a lot of interaction, but actually, I don't think I got a lot of interaction. Now it's really thin. This stuff is weird. This gorilla's playing with himself. Gorilla glue. It's like separates or something. Come on. I found one super glue that I liked. That one. And then you can't find it again. Alright, well let's assume that it's the same stuff. I just don't like it being this thin. It runs everywhere. But anyways, I was working on this build and really having to come up with all kinds of ideas. It's not a complaint, actually. It was good. It was a good exercise to try to use this body on something. And the odd thing about it is that I'm going to end up covering this engine up, which is kind of sad, but I'm sorry. It's like I got this vehicle from the junkyard, so to speak, secondhand store. Okay, this just won't do. This won't do. what's going on here? But one of the issues that I have right now is that this is soft plastic, particularly this. So I'm going to paint it with Elmer's. Let it dry, and then we'll prime over it. Which the part about that stinks is like, okay, you stopped the whole process. Like, I can't go any further. Okay, but we've got a little driving position here. For the wrecking ball that can rotate. And I would have been fine if I just made it static like this and you just pretend that it goes around. You don't have to move it, but if I can make it move, I can make, you can make it move. So, and I'm going to try to find a figure that it can sit in there, but because it is a truck with a crew of 3, so you got two guys on a date up there. Why do they gotta be dudes? Why can't they be dudes on a date? And then a guy up here conducting, And unfortunately, that uses up its build slot. So like you're like at 17 points, and you're done. You're done at 17 points. So to get the 27, that's 10 points of perks, personal weapons, something like that. It's got no weapons on it; it just has a wrecking ball. So the other stuff that we're going to put on it won't physically look like anything. So yeah, I don't have that many extra spare parts and stuff. It still managed to kind of make it work. So that's kind of cool. But this is one of them vehicle humping things. If you ever seen builds where like people like stack vehicles on top of each other, like they're humping. What was that? It's that cover of that album from is it Aerosmith? Aerosmith has that cover of. Not that I'm an Aerosmith fan, but let's see. Uh-oh. Okay. Aerosmith album cover with 2 trucks humping. Yeah, this. Pump. That's what it's called. Yeah, you've seen builds like that, where they have like one vehicle on top of another, and you're like, well, how's that going to stay in place? They're held together by affection. Oh, man. It helped us stay cool under 100 degrees all week. Yeah, it was actually relatively cool yesterday. But man, it was dreary when I went out. And I can't do dreary. I am not a dreary fan. I don't know that I need to put grading on top of this. I wish I could give this a ram, but then I ruin the appearance of the vehicle, and then I have to make this a heavy truck because we've used up the 2 builds. This shouldn't take 3. A wrecking ball shouldn't take 3 builds. 3 build slots. Now, when it looks like this and it's attached to a vehicle that's overloading the bottom vehicle, yeah, it probably should. But, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to coat this in Elmer's. Well, that's kind of handy. Can we do the same thing here? The power of magnetism. And let's take any of these flyaways. And then while I'm doing that, I'll put things on this guy. And then hopefully the Elmer's doesn't take too long to dry. I don't think there's anything else I want to cut off this. On the plastic, where is the... Always looking for the X-Acto knife. Always. You buy 7 of them. And put them all over here on the left. This is just a hot glue. Okay, good with everything there. I'm fine leaving that little hook there. Gives it some personality. Yeah, we're just going to lose that engine there. And it's attached to the inside, otherwise I'd remove it and then use it on something else. But I got spare engines and I haven't used a single one of them. Oh, the wheels move. Fire up the hot glue gun. We can't have that uppityness. So yeah, it was just kind of a brainstorming session, and we made this thing work. And I think the next thing is what's gonna have to take place with this truck. You know, we'll figure it out. You know, and I think it's gonna look amazing. I really do. And I used a bit that's left over. Because I bought this thing for like the front prod, the front like plow. And the plow's on something, I can't remember what the hell it's on. It might be this on, it's on the front of Gold Digger. The front plow on this is on Gold Digger. So I brought a new one in here. Let's grab this and a brush that's not too small, so we can be done in a reasonable amount of time. And the Elmer's glue wall. I've only done this a couple of times, mainly with the soft plastic figures. This brush is a little too big. That brush a little too big. Or a little too stiff. What was that? Oh, little Spidey. Hey, Spidey. Sorry, dude, you're inside the house. Oh, you're kind of cute. Sorry. got these little snails outside. They're really cute. Trust me. I think I've talked about them before. At this house, I've never seen them before. Got little shells and everything. And they get their little antennas out and move in the walkway between the main grass and the planter. Sometimes they'll cross. And I mean, they're so freaking cute. And sometimes you'll see, you'll go in the afternoon and you'll see where they'll leave like a little slick spot, just almost like a glaze of like semi-gloss where they've been. And I'm careful when I'm walking because I don't want to step on them because they're outside. That's their land, right? And I went to go grab something at the front door the other day, and I stepped on one. I mean, they're really little, and it made me really sad. And I hate to sound like a damn tree hugger, but well, that's not a tree. I like animals. Trees don't have feelings, but animals do. And I felt a little sad about it, but I didn't mean to step on them, The Hoffman, good morning. The unboxing video was good. Now I know where their all white cars are coming from. All these white cars are coming from. What white cars? Now, can I put let me put an asterisk on my video. The cars aren't very good. I don't know that I would jump through a flaming hoop to buy them. Because the parts are really good, but they're very shittily made. I wouldn't rush to buy any of them, okay? They're extremely hollow. Well, let's paint this and let's take one of them apart. They have screws. That is a good part. The parts they come with are really good. But they're almost like super cheap tin. I don't regret getting them because my daughter is a freaking expert in picking shit out. And she literally got exactly, although I actually think this vehicle isn't one of them. This one isn't pictured. But I'm going to build it like this with the exhausts and stuff like that. But and you can see like into the inside and there ain't nothing there. So they're super shittily made. I don't know that I would recommend anybody buying any of them. But is that not what you would expect me to say? Well, I'm just being honest. I mean, they're almost like made out of thick aluminum foil. It's not going to bend under you grabbing them and stuff, but it's definitely, the cheapest shells of any vehicle that I have. Without a doubt. They're cheaper than Maisto. Have I seen the white Hot Wheels cars with Braille for blind peeps? I haven't. I don't know what the hell you'd use them for. They don't make very many of them. Almost all the Hot Wheel cars work except like, a waving cat or a telephone or that freaking egg or, scooters that are, way out of scale. But that's the exception. I'd say 99% of the vehicles are useful. All right, let's see how we get on with this. I'm not gonna dilute this. We're gonna just paint this full strength. Maybe that's a mistake. But it'll dry quicker. Make sure that we don't have it really thick in places. Yeah, I don't think I diluted it over when I did the plastic figures. So it's one of those things when you get those cars, they look better. You think they look better than they do. When you go in there and look at them, like, they're not that good. I mean, the wheels suck. I mean, the wheels will get replaced. Wheels are good to have as replacements. I got this little knocker here is made out of the wheels. That was a super interesting session yesterday for those of you guys that watched it. At least for me, because I really had to think outside the box. And I really did have to think outside the box for some of the stuff to work. And I used AI, and in a typical way, AI wasn't that useful. You know, AI in that situation was good to like, hey, I wonder how this would look. And then I asked it to come up with a look, and I'm like, yeah, let's not go with that. You know, all right, we know we have to grab this one where we had this from. Okay, so we'll let that dry. This is the important one to get all the stuff. Let's make sure we don't have any flash on here that we need to remove, that we need to slice off. You can't scrape any of this off. So yeah, it was a fun video to do. Kind of disappointed. Now, with that said, I'm going to do one of them soon so we can see how I'm sure they'll look great, but the cars aren't anything to like, you know, they're literally the worst cars I have. I don't know that we want to remove that. I think we're good with this. But trying to come up with an idea for a crane, man, this was. I'd use all my brain cells, all 12 of them. And then we'll prime over this, but yeah, this is an extra. This is an extra wheel from the Kamikaze. The wheels, remember, they didn't have they didn't have any centers to them. Like, what can I do with it? Well, have it be one of them magnet things where you pick up things and you know. So this is going to be like a junkyard theme critter. All right, let's rinse this. I see people posting about those cars in the Gaslands Reddit. White Braille car. I haven't seen it. Gaslands Reddit. No, I don't go on there. I guess I didn't realize there. Facebook is just too easy to like post pictures on there. That's why I use Facebook. It's just super easy. White cars, Hot Wheels, Braille. Oh, I see. They have these bumps and stuff. Well, you should like name them whatever it says on Braille, like asshole. You know. Oh, it's on the outside. I've never seen one. I've never seen one of those in the wild. It probably says twin mill on it, doesn't it? It does. Here it is at the top. It says twin on one side and mill on the other. Yeah, the body's okay to do conversions to it. All right. So let's move this guy out. Now we did finish, and we decided to call again without any use for with AI. I said, AI, come up with some names for that Volkswagen Beetle. It didn't help me. I said, okay, well, I want bug of the name. So bug bite. You know, and it's little, it's only 13 points, bug bite. You know, but at least AI gives you the idea. Maybe you're not overlooking something obvious. Maybe that's the best way to, it's almost like a check and balance, right? Like, did I forget something? You know, it'll give you some suggestion like, oh, I didn't think about that. Or, you know, maybe it's not useful. All right, we need to glue the wheels on this Joker, and we need to set this thing down so that it doesn't glue down unevenly. Okay. Let's not put the tiger next to the hot end. That's going to be a bad combination. You have 5 cars done now. None of them have names. Oh, come on, man. You're good at that shit. You're a writer. You should be better at it than I am. Maybe you don't enjoy naming them. It's fair, you know. Okay, I'm turning this off so I can like see out this way. Evil Auto. Evil Auto. The interior is already black. That's a plus. The bottom is not. And we got a little bit of a scratch here. We were taking it apart. No big deal. It's very, very tiny. And it'll get weathered over it. This Hot Wheels logo here that people say you can use the dry erase markers. I bought a whole pack of them. Maybe I bought shitty ones. It didn't work worth a damn for me. I don't see any reason really to not go ahead and glue this thing down. I like the wheels it comes with. I like everything. I'm not one of those like I'm going to change the wheels just out of principle. I'm like, okay, I am a person of principles, but that's not one of them. No, I use ChatGPT because it's the one that my wife has the account. And if I have any questions, I ask her. That's the only reason I picked that one. It was picked for me. It was actually my wife's suggestion to use ChatGPT for things. She uses it a lot for stuff. And it's pretty cool. You know, I'm going to leave it at that. It's pretty cool. Under supervision, meaning, you know, don't make it make decisions for you for your whole damn life. Like, use this like a team of advisors, you know? I mean, hell, Gemini might work better. I have no idea, but I'm not going to get into another one because we have unlimited on that, you know? We pay for it. Might as well use it. So that's what I use to design all the billboards and stuff. Like, you know, even if I didn't use it for other ideas, I definitely would use it for designing billboards for this game. Like, that'd be insane to paint them by hand. Yeah, that's just, no way. No way we're doing that. And I don't mind AI as long as you're not creating videos of, you know, of people doing things they're not really doing, and then post it in something, and you're sending misinformation. You know, what misinformation can I send with a billboard? Oh man, there's really a death race with, you know, coming up on, you know, May 29th. No, it's a fucking game. You know, it's come on. I'm not making videos of, you know, USS Gerald Ford getting hit by a torpedo from Iran or something like that. Like, you know, I'm not spreading misinformation. I've never made one of those, but those videos where they make toys come to life, I like those. It's obvious it's not a real vehicle, right? It's a toy, you know? Those are cool. I haven't made one, probably never will. Seems like it's a shitload of work. But, you know, those aren't bad. It's when you're like, pushing false narratives that you start becoming a menace to society. Okay, so this thing is glue. This thing had some kind of like slime or something on it, right? There's like this underlayer of green. When I got it, I got this thing from a used toy box. And the slime is strong with this one. It's hard to get that stuff off of it. I've primed it, I've painted it, and you can still see some of it there. Like as you wear the paint and the primer, but the slime still stays. But I think by the time we're done with it, it won't be an issue. But it's just, it's curious how it still like reels its ugly head there. Okay. Yeah, this is what I've started doing is putting the hot glue on there and then setting it down so it's all evenly. Because you leave it balancing and then you got one wheel that's higher than the others and it's like, man, why is this causing so much trouble for me? The only thing with calling this thing Evil Auto is that it doesn't look evil and it's not black. Why do black things have to be evil? Hey, I don't make the fucking rules, you know? Why are the Irish drunks? I don't know. I don't make the fucking rules. You know, why are they portrayed? There we go. This is a cool vehicle. This is a really, really cool vehicle. All right. If you know anything about Evil Auto and why I picked it, which I came up with my reasons why, it should have an electrical weapon. Because that tie into that game. Ghostbusters car, the slime is strong with this one. Yep. Exactly. So let's find out what weapons we have other than an arc light projector. That could work. Not like, let's just throw it on there and hope for the best. Like, there's got to be like a purpose in it. All right, so electrical weapons we have are arc lightning projector, right? Death ray, that's the one. Death ray is the one. That even works with the theme of Evil Auto. Evil Auto is from that video game Berserk. I'm sure you remember this. God, give me a moment. Can't remember right now. Kevin. I'm sure you remember, Kevin, that old video game from Atari called Berserk, where you had this guy and he'd move around and use these robots that would just sit there. They kind of looked like that robot on the Black Hole. What was his name? Maximilian? I don't even remember watching that, but, you know, very tubular looking robots. And they had this little eye that moved and it would shoot little laser, not really lasers, but like bullets or whatever, but they were like laser bullets at you, and you had to avoid it, and you couldn't touch any of the walls, or your guy got electrocuted, and I don't know how many. You guys, one of those games where you got 3 lives, right? And yeah, there's no railgun in the game. You got to call it something else. I've got railgun looking things, but you got to call them something else. And you know, eventually, every level you walk in gets a little hot, gets a little harder, and then eventually, you know, 10 or 15 seconds in, this little happy face bounces across. He doesn't have to follow the rules of staying in the walls. I mean, he's literally just went from one side to the other, almost like he's sweeping like a Roomba. And if he touched you, you're dead too. So, you know, Finished your car with an arc lightning projector last night, but no name. You'll get to it. Death ray. All right. Death ray is, I have one other vehicle with a death ray. I don't remember which one it is. 3d6, ammo 1. 3 points, 1 build slot. That's good, so we got another build slot left. Okay, so this is, we're going to tentatively call this Evil Auto. For putting in quotation marks. This vehicle is called a Custom Auto. A-O-O-T-T-O. You know, like an Ottoman. And when I think of auto, if it's spelled that way, I think, oh, Evil Auto. This is a car. I don't think it's going to be a performance car. Car, 12 points. 2 build slots. It's going to have Death Ray. That is 3 points. And is 1 build slot. And I'm going to make it turreted. I'm going to make it a turreted death ray. I don't remember the other vehicle that has a death ray. And whether or not it's turreted. But we got plenty of points to make this thing turreted. And I would do a ram other than I really like the front of this car. And I really don't want to ruin it. I don't think I have a ram that could salvage the front of the car. Man, this thing is slick. We're gonna clear coat it. And I think I'm gonna move to clear coating everything with an enamel spray. At least the initial one to put the wash on. Sounds fitting to use a Johnny Lightning. That's true. I have a Roomba-like vehicle I was thinking about making since you said Roomba. Oh, the little street sweeper? You have like a street sweeper or whatever. Yeah. Roomba Boomba. Boomba Roomba. I have one too. Yours is a little cuter than mine. I got one used. Yours is really cute. So I'm going to put a death ray on it. It's going to get us 21 points. And then if we're not going to put a ram on it, man, you could put another machine gun on it. Let's see what we got here weapons-wise. Bring the chair up. Did we have to move the things out of the way? Yes, we got to move the things out of the way. All right. This is why you got to work on 2 vehicles. That's the Rams. Death Ray. We'll get to those in a second. Death Ray. Death Ray could be a laser type thing. Like that could work. This could work. This could certainly work. This could work. That looks like more than a laser. That could work too. Get all the possibilities out here. This one could work also, but I already used one of these as a laser on other vehicles, so we're going to keep it that way. That one could work. That could work as well. What's this? That could work. That one could work. Man, got a lot of them. Okay. That's the candidates. A lot of them. And we're going to need some of this turreted stuff to make it look more turreted. Had that street sweeper in the mail when I had this Roomba looking thing with little wheels. Yeah, I got one that's like green or something. It's funny, as many vehicles as I have, and you have that the ones you're going to get in the mail whenever the post office gets off their ass and goes back to work. No offense, Derek, but it arrives. You have stuff I don't have. I've never seen, and I mean that's cool. There's so many designs. There's so many freaking designs. Especially for like old ones and different companies and things like that. I got to use a little boys' room, and I will be right back in a moment. Yeah, I was sending some pics as Roomba looking thing. It sparked some creative ideas. Wish I could post it here. Damn you, YouTube. Yeah, some things are harder to use than they should be. Let's see what we got here. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. I mean, there's the little wheels. Has it got like a seat back there? I'm sure you could work with that. It's definitely science friendly, you know? You're forced to wait until Tuesday for your package from Sprudude to arrive. Oddly enough, my scheduled day off is Wednesday. Well, that's good, right? Or bad because you're going to miss the delivery. You should get your own mail. Here's a question for you. If you're a mail person, a person of the mail persuasion, M-A-I-L, and you're on a route, are you ever on the route where you live on? I bet you can't be. Because then you could just deliver your own packages, right? You never have to worry about like, oh, this guy's not home. I've got to give this guy a package. He's got to sign for it, but he's not home. Oh, wait, that's fucking me. It's my house. You know? I bet you can't. I bet there's a clause in there. You can't deliver to your own. You know, the irony of it. Well, people would abuse it too. There's always abusers. Roomba, like the vacuum, yeah. Yeah, like, what's the name of that creature? Naughty Nunu. Okay, mine's going to have a Naughty Nunu name, just so you know. And if you don't know who Naughty Nunu is, well, you should have had kids. I'm going to put on here. Naughty Nunu. Mine's going to have a Naughty Nunu theme. You don't know what I'm talking about. Go watch Teletubbies. Now, what's that show that everybody watches except me? And hopefully some of you guys. South Park. Right? Kenny dies in every episode, whoever the fuck Kenny is, right? Naughty Nunu always soaks up the carpet. Marcus knows who the fuck Naughty Nunu is. Good morning, Marcus. Yeah, my street sweeper is gonna have a Naughty Nunu name, you know. Sucks it all up. I guess carried to your own house. Most carriers don't live where they work. Is it like forbidden to deliver there, or there's not really a clause for that? Okay, this thing looks Death Ray-ish. It's just kind of the 3D print kind of like molded and stuff. Absolutely, you know who Naughty Nunu is, yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna make a street sweeper. That's what it's gonna have a Naughty Nunu thing. Okay, Marcus, let's plug Marcus here because Marcus is really close to my age. When you think of this car is called a custom auto, OTTO. So I immediately like, oh, this thing's gonna be called Evil Auto. You know who Evil Auto is? You ought to. You oughta. Stop. Okay. Soaks up the carpet. Does that mean it pees on the floor? That's a good point. Maybe. Maybe. Let's see if I can get a picture of it. It's like a little vacuum cleaner. It looks kind of like a little elephant too. It's cute. You know, people made a big deal out of Teletubbies. Like, one of them's gay. Like, who gives a fuck if the Teletubby's gay? You know, he's not touching kids inappropriately, so who freaking cares? You know? I'm like, it's purple. Why does it gotta be gay? Why can't it just be like the big bossy woman of the group, right? Because there's 4 of them. He's the tallest one, right? Yeah, it looks like a little elephant. And there might have been some people that are on this show that shouldn't be around kids, but the theme of the theme of the show is not kid inappropriate, you know? And he's got googly eyes. You know, so whatever vehicle's Naughty Nunu theme needs to be this kind of blue, you know. Evil Eric. Evil Auto, okay. Let's see, let me do a search for Evil Auto, see if that comes up. Here he is. Evil Auto, this is what he looks like. Just a smiley face. So there's this video game called Berserk. And if you don't remember what the video game called Berserk is, I'm going to bring it up. As soon as I show it to you, Berserk video game, you'll know exactly what it is. And I didn't have an Atari when they first came out. I didn't have an Atari until like 85. So I was like behind a generation. Berserk might have been spelled differently. It might have been with a Z. Berserk video game. Show me the images. Images, man, they oh my gosh, it's not spelled this way. Atari. How's this stupid game called spelled? Okay. Here's a representative of what the game looked like. You were this one guy. Yeah. You couldn't touch there was a way in and a way out, and you had to basically get out and you had to kill these robots that were evil and also did not move. That's how basic this game was. You could move, you could fire 360 degrees or north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest, right? You could do the 8 directions or whatever, with your joystick, with your one button, right? And you had no ammo. You had unlimited ammo, and these robots would just sit there with a little eye, and then if they saw you, they would shoot at you. You couldn't touch the walls. If you touched the walls, you would have basically immediately eliminated. And then it keeps getting harder. Like, they shoot faster and more frequently. And then eventually, this bouncy head comes across here. It doesn't follow any of the rules, if I remember correctly. It's not like it's got to come in through an opening and go out through an opening and try to find you. It just goes over the walls. It doesn't give a shit, right? It's like on another plane. And if it touches you, you can't destroy it anyway. If it touches you, you're also zapped. So I saw this evil on it immediately. So let's have some fun with AI, because we're still waiting for that to dry. All right? So we're going to take a picture of this guy right here, which is a sexy looking car. I am personally not a fan of I wouldn't drive a muscle car. Why? They're not Japanese. What the hell would I do driving a vehicle? It's not Japanese. But they look awesome for this game. And they look good. I mean, it's not like they're unattractive. They just, Okay, so we're going to go to our friends. Why is this one not recognizing? I really need to download the app, but I don't. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I'm good at a lot of things, but like remembering passwords isn't one of them. That's like, I'd be terrible at that. If my life depended on it, okay, sure, but it's like I don't put enough importance on it. So we're going to go ahead and add this image, okay, of this vehicle right here. Select. And the chat is really good at understanding every single thing you speak to it. Like, I've never seen anything it's better than people. You were thinking of Dirk Dastardly on the Wacky Racers. Same here, Asteroids and Tron. I never liked Tron, but Asteroids was good. Missile Command. I wanted to be really good at Missile Command, but there was only one video game I was an ace at. And it was a game by Activision called, I'm going to call it Sub Hunt, but it may not have been called Sub Hunt. It was by Activision. It was submarines. And it was one of those, you start on the left and you go out the right side of the screen. And you had to like destroy the Sequest? Was it Sequest? I think it was Sequest. And in the back of the rule book, because it had a little pamphlet about this big that came with the little cartridge. Which back in the day you could get at, what was that secondhand? Rite Aid. Rite Aid would have the cartridges for the games for like $5.99 or something like that. Something relatively inexpensive, because I think new cartridges for Ataris were like $30 maybe, $20. That was relatively expensive back in the early 80s. Anyways, the back of the rule book, if you scored 250,000, I don't know exactly what the number is. I'm gonna say it's 250,000 points. Send in a picture or whatever, and we can put you in the Hall of Fame or whatever. It just whatever. This is back in, and I remember I tripled the score, whatever it was. But Sequest. I just got in a groove, and I only had a few games, and I just, that's back when I didn't mind grinding and doing the same damn thing over and over and over again. All right, let's speak to this thing. This is a picture of a car I'd like to convert for Gaslands. It is called a custom auto. It is spelled OTTO. I would like for this to have the theme of Evil Auto from the Berserk video game. Give me some ideas for a paint scheme that would incorporate an evil happy face into the look of this car. Now, I don't want it to freaking design the damn thing for me, but I want it to give me some scenarios where it puts it in different places, and I can see, it wouldn't be good to look at it that way. Like, you could see some things that were already. Let's see how it did. It even spelled Berserk correctly for the video game. Looks good to me. Let her rip. Now here's what Hoffman loves to talk about. Here it is doing a bunch of bullshit, giving me anything but the whatever. So, thought for a couple seconds. Absolutely, since it's a custom auto, the evil auto theme is perfect. I know. Stop kissing my ass. I know I'm awesome. Brown noser. I'd lean hard. That's a saying I don't say. I've heard lots of people. I'd lean hard. I don't use that terminology. Black void, neon maze, grid lines, pixel graphics, and one nasty smiling face that looks cheerful but dangerous. Evil automobile. Paint the whole car gloss back. I want to keep it that blue color. Okay. I'm lazy and it looks beautiful. Put a huge yellow happy face on the hood with angry eyebrows, okay, jagged teeth and red eyes, okay, sure. Small pixel-like error marks, little stick figure victims, or intruder alert on the side. Does it say intruder alert on it? I don't know. In the game. I spent my change on comics. Right, I have loads of old Sergeant Rock fighting army. I had a few of those that were hand-me-downs, and I hated them because they were so one-sided. They were more one-sided than Russian World War II movies are now. It's just like way too hokey. What was that one that was like the ghost tank? Right, it was like the ghost of Jeb Stewart. Right, he would come in, and I think they were in a Stewart tank. Maybe they weren't. That wouldn't make sense, but I had a couple of those hand-me-downs and. Not in great condition, sure. You enjoyed them though. I was played a game of Seawolf, instantly figured out the pattern to it. I could play it forever on a quarter. I could predict when to launch my holographic torpedoes to bust the enemy metal ships. You were thinking a Cheshire cat. You mean with a smile like that? That would work. That would work. Certainly. That was number one. Number two, Smiley Death Machine. Keep the current blue as a base, okay, but make it darker, well, we're going to give it a wash, and more sinister with black weathering. Add a large evil auto face onto the roof. Well, not if that's where the freaking laser is going to go. It's probably likely. On the roof, almost like a racing number circle. Okay. The face could be yellow with a cracked, crazed smile. Okay. On the sides, paint smaller yellow smiley faces like kill marks. Okay. There's some merit to that. 3. Arcade Pursuit. Paint the car like it's trapped inside an old arcade screen, black body, neon green grit. No. Put the drugs down. Auto hazard. Okay, that's actually a good name for the car. Auto hazard. OTTO. Use a yellow and black-white hazard scheme, but make the yellow sections form the evil face. For example, the hood could be mostly yellow with black eyes and a mouth, while the rest of the car has warning stripes. Would look great with rust, scratches, and a little red warning lights. Little too many directions at once. The happy face from hell, number 5. Paint the car matte black, then put a huge, sloppy, hand-painted, evil auto grin across the entire front end. The headlights become the eyes. Has no headlights. The grill front bumper becomes the mouth. This makes the car look like the smiley face is eating whatever it hits. 6. 8-bit nightmare. Do the whole car in pixel art style? No. 7. Auto EXE. Make it look corrupted and glitchy. Dark base coat, then streaks of neon pink. No. 8. Berserker Auto. Paint the hood with the happy evil face, then give some sides orange berserk mode. Striping. Add scratches throughout the smiley face so it looks worn and battle damaged. This one would work especially well if you add a front ram. Not going to add a front ram. We're not going to ruin the look of it. My favorite of this car would be gloss black neon arcade lines. Okay. So of all these, I only like number 2. So we'll go on here and go draw idea number 2. And that's actually really useful because instead of you like, oh, draw it, man, I wish I would have put it in this place instead of somewhere else. Now, while you do your magic, the haunted tank, okay? Jeb got really pissed when the crew was issued a Sherman tank. Ghost of Jeb Stewart sounds like a Gaslands character in Car. I think that was featured GI Combat. Yeah. Well, if I made a redneck war rig, the first thing I would think it would be called the Stonewall Jackson. But my rednecks are rednecks. There's just no Civil War and slavery intertwined with it, right? It's a different flag. That's not the point in doing it, is to, promote anything like that. Not that I find it even remotely offensive, but I want to post pictures of things online. I don't know why you dink by these, uppity, nosy bots. If bots hadn't been invented, no problem. I don't have a problem putting crooked spider things and, And I'm actually fine with pictures of swastika things being not allowed on the internet. With the caveat that you can't put commie hammer and sickle shit on there too. But since the rules don't apply equally to both totalitarian fuckeries, then I'm against it, Because you could even go, you'd be, I don't know if you could still do it now, but you could make like those dancing memes through Facebook of Stalin, like, you don't get any food, jokes and stuff like that, but like, that's not cool. The Lee, was it a Lee? The Lee is a cool looking tank. It's ugly, but it's a cool looking tank. And in typical British fashion, the British touch anything American. I don't know if there's an exception to this. Maybe there's an exception. But the British touch anything that's made in the United States in the Second World War and make it look better. They do. They do. They give it a fucking name instead of calling it an M4 tank. What as opposed to an M4 half-track? Or an M3. What is it? Oh, it's an M3 tank. Was the light tank M3 or the medium tank M3? No, I was talking about the grease gun. You sure you don't mean the M3 half-track? Like, dude, pick a different letter and a different number designation, dickweed. Like, come up with some ideas, Well, let's send it to Britain and see what they come up with. It just doesn't make any sense. I know. Put it in hot water. I don't know. I don't know about all that. Let's see how this looks. Let's see what this has come up with. Yeah, I'm not liking this. But it does give me an idea of what not to do. See if I can get this sized correctly to show you guys. It even put Gaslands on it. Yeah, the yellow on the blue works just fine. But what did I like? I did like the auto hazard. I like that. I like the auto hazard name. So I don't know. Well, that was fun. That wasn't that useful. All right, death ray options. They want it turreted. This bastard. So I'm thinking at this point the happy faces are going to be on the doors, probably. Now, this little ranging device isn't going to work well with that. As a matter of fact, I would work with this one. But it needs to look kind of wicked. Like this could totally go for a standard laser. So just from the standpoint of that looks kind of normal, let's not use that one. Same thing with this one. Same thing with this one. Same thing with that one. Same thing with that one. Let's use the more zany, Ming the Merciless looking things. Like that one's pretty cool. That would work. Like those bulbs that you stick in somebody's head to read their mind. What's up, Francois? British called it the Grant. Well, they also called it the Lee. They gave it the name Lee. And I did not know this. They used Grants and Lees in North Africa. So there was some, not every tank that the British got had the Grant turret. If it had the Lee turret, they called it a Lee. And there was I saw an article, it was 4-1 or 5-1. So for every 4 or 5 Grants, they had one Lee. I've never seen a Lee in British service, or a picture of one, but apparently they had them. And the Grant's much better looking than the Lee. But the Lee is one of those things all right, how many people are in the crew? 5. Cool, we're going to have 9 machine guns. Dude, we can't man everything. Who cares? The early Stuart had, a crew of 4? And it has, a coax machine gun, an AA machine gun, a coax machine gun, an AA machine gun, 2 in sponsons, and 1 in the hull. I guess that's 4. Plus a main gun, But the sponson ones were controlled by the driver, and they were fired remotely. And I was reading an article, I mentioned it, about tank combat in the Pacific and the Philippines. And they were defending from the Japanese attacking in 1941, and there was this tank platoon. It's actually a tank platoon, 4 tanks or something like that. And the Japanese were coming, and the infantry was there was this road, and they were in this ditch beside the road, and to get enfilade fire on them, they needed to rotate the tank. The driver needed to wiggle the tank so they could shoot the machine guns that were on the sponson. They call them the sponson, but they're not really in sponson. You think they stick out, but they were, they're out beside the side. You know what I'm talking about. Ever play the Avalon Hill game Tobruk? No. Now I know which one you're talking about. I just never played it. Played Advanced Squad Leader a lot and Squad Leader a lot, but not Tobruk. Tobruk has no infantry, or it has infantry in a not very useful. Never played Tobruk. Mitch has a copy of it. It looks pretty waterlogged, like it's been in some kind of a British basement. That's what it smells like. A British waterlogged basement. You were a gunner in an ASV. You had a Mark 19, an M2, an M240B, plus your rifle. Rifle or carbine? You see what I did there? You had an M4, right? See, I don't know what ASV is, but I know what a Mark 19 is. I know what an M2 is. I know what a 240B is. Do I know what a 240B? Yeah, it's the new saw, right? 240B is the new saw. Who's that one made by? H&K or FN? Yeah, the new saw, which is the new M60. Not really, but in that role in the squad. Okay, that's not bad, but if we use a turreted mount, it's going to have to be this one. And these little laser thingies need to be... Ooh! So there's like a little laser thing in between it. It's almost like this isn't the shooty parts. This is just some kind of resistance, and the shooty part's there in the center. Right, that's the kind of science I practice, shooty parts. I'm not big on science stuff. Now guns, we can talk guns all day. ASV is an M1117. If you want an image, search it. I will. I don't know what it is. Is it a lav chassis? I hope it's a lav chassis because I got a lav question for you. M1117. ASV. I would call that, I know it's not a lav chassis, but yeah. Oh, that's like the Commando, right? That's like what the Commando, I'm just know it from like models. Like, oh, that's a Commando they use in Vietnam. Okay, that's a good looking vehicle. That's a good looking vehicle. Okay, let's talk about the tires on this thing. That's kind of a lav question. Can they take a bullet? You know, can they take it? Are they bulletproof to a degree? The tires. You know, because I'm always wondering, you play some war game, you have, like, say, German armored cars on the Eastern Front, right? Whether they're 8-wheel or 4-wheel or whatever, like, you know, can the tires take a bullet? Or, like, you got to avoid the tires. If you shoot the tires, like, you can immobilize the thing, kind of thing. The 240 is a sweet machine gun. It was your most reliable piece of equipment on your tank. They self-seal. Okay, so they can take some damage. Okay, that's good. A 240 is FN. Okay, it's more of a GPG than the British Army used. Okay. Okay, I'm thinking of the one. What's the replacement of the saw? That I think it's an H&K weapon, like a 417 or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing 3-digit numbers at you. You know what I'm talking about. But I've never been in the service. I just war game. I just war game and occasionally like to shoot firearms. Nothing like that you know a normal person would have access to, but I don't like firearms that have weird hunter calibers, like a 243. What the fuck is that? I mean, it's like, you know, like use normal calibers. You know, you were an M60 gunner only, played rock and roll. 249, okay. 249 is a saw, okay. Okay. Yeah, that shoots 556, doesn't it? Which makes sense, that way you get to trade the ammo. Hey, I need a few more rounds, pal. I'm sure a GPMG shoots 7.6251. I would hope so. That would be like, you know, that would make sense. That would make sense. Okay, so what did that get us? It got us freaking nowhere. Okay. All right. So this is a candidate. This is a candidate. This is a candidate. These other guys are not candidates. They're too traditional, lasery. Oh, and then you got some weird weapons. You got this fucker. Tune the fuck in, Tokyo. Look at this thing. doesn't look aggressive enough. It's like you're trying to, find a clandestine location to upload kids programming or something. It's just not aggressive enough. This is a bit too retro. I don't dislike it. I really want this one to work. Or this one. I don't have more than one of those. I do, but they're on a turret. And the turret, I've yet to be able to use one of these. They look cool. They just... Maybe this is the vehicle to use them on. You have one of these that's not like all bent to shit? This one's less bent. Maybe this is the vehicle to use them on. It certainly looks aggressive enough. I'm also fine putting it flat on the roof and you put a little piece of stickum on it. I kind of like this. Man, how hot you gotta get this thing to bend it back. I think we'll put it flat on the roof. I mean, it looks like it's turreted. I think that's what we'll go with. I like those since day one. I'm like, how am I going to get to use that thing? How about a 1.5 with auto on the front? Yeah, but this is this is called a custom auto. That's why I got it. Yeah, I don't have a 1.5. Not in this scale. Trucks are weird in this scale. They start getting like really out of scale. Because it's like box scale. It's like almost like all the Hot Wheels are made by Lindbergh, right? We're like, okay, we got this box. What can we put in? Well, we can put like a Volkswagen Beetle. Okay, let's make it as big as we can. Okay, cool. We got a school bus. How big will we make it? Make it as big as you can. Well, it's the same size as the Volkswagen Beetle. Well, that'll work. Hey, it'd be cool if we did like a motorcycle. All right, well, how big is it? Oh, as big as we can. Well, the motorcycle's a lot bigger than, but it's kids' toys. Kids don't care. This kid fucking cared. I don't want to play with things that are way out of scale. It's stupid. But really, you want 3 different guns for 3 different jobs. 3 different machine guns on a rifle gave me maximum versatility. Okay. Go have a meal. It's second breakfast time. Let's remove this. Well, as long as you don't have supply issues, having 3 different guns with 3 different ammo types is probably just fine. But I was surprised to find out a couple of years ago that the Shermans that landed on Normandy, they specifically did not want 76 millimeter gun Shermans to land on Normandy because they didn't want the supply issue of trying to bring a different kind of ammo. For the tanks. And then, I think that happened for like a month. And they started to arrive, like, they had some for like Operation for the Cobra breakout, but before that, the Americans didn't have any. Now, I think the British probably still brought some 17. I know they had 17 pounders. There were Fireflies definitely before then. In Normandy. But I was surprised. I'm like, you just figured they weren't going to encounter that many German tanks. Well, that's all fall fine and dandy until you encounter a German tank. And then you got problems. This is what we're going to go with. How is this doing on the dryness? Yeah, this is going to be awesome or going to suck. But man, I had to get really creative with this, which I don't want to do on every vehicle because then I won't get any vehicles done. And there's no need to be that creative. These vehicles are cool the way they come in the freaking package. You just add some guns to them and weather them and give them a personality, and you're good to go. Coffee filters were the only thing you had trouble getting. Really? Interesting. All right, now when we glue this, we can put a facade, and that covers enough of this stuff that it isn't an issue. Yeah, and my normal reaction is just freaking glue it and figure it out later. Not build it in all these sub-assemblies, and then you have to remove glue from things to get it to stick. And since I have the hot glue gun here hot and ready, I think I'm going to go ahead and hot glue gun this fucker down. I think I'm going to do that. And since it's hot glue gun, if I made the wrong decision, it's not a problem. You just pull it off, They had something like canister ammo they used in hedgehogs. Germans call them Patton's butchers, I think. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, just hadn't heard about it. Those hedgerow cutters that they had? Supposedly those were all homemade and they didn't, they were all over the place. Meaning they weren't all one design. So you could almost scratch build those and be perfectly fine. That's kind of interesting. I don't really think of Allies scratch building things frequently. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but man, I had a work thought. I don't know if this has ever happened before, but I'm sitting here building this and I'm like, oh, that's great. It lines up with the edge, so that's not a wide load. I'm like, stop. It's not a work day. It's not more than 102 inches. It doesn't have to be a wide load. We can travel all days and nights. Stop it. Get these little webbing. Normally I would use just epoxy for this, but this is just so much more forgiving. Okay. And this is also magnetized, so the only catch with this is we're going to have to put it would make sense to put a figure there, visibly there, on station. And I don't mind painting figures at all. I actually approve painting figures. The problem is that I just don't have any figures that I want to use there. You don't want to put a figure and make something look worse, right? You don't want to add stuff like that looked great until you added that one thing, and it's like you shouldn't have put that extra effort in it because you made it look worse, kind of thing. Okay, so let's remove this. And let's see what size we need to cut this to. Get this to fit. Man, I could make it wider and go down here to the... I kind of like that better. Have it go from there. So let's leave this edge. And let's start reducing this little by little. What's up, Lee? You heard us talking about you. The tank version of you. The Lee tank. Yeah, all those American tanks didn't have names. It wasn't until the British. It's almost like Americans in the Second World War had like no clue for advertising. Like it's an M3 grease gun, it's an M3 half track, it's an M3. Like, come on, man, come up with other names. But the British have been kind of masters of naming things for many times. I mean, their warships had freaking excellent names. Not all of them, okay, but many of them. Like, you know, I don't really like the naming practice they do on, U.S. small ships where they name it after somebody and they have to use their. I don't like naming ships and it uses somebody's first name. Well, how do you know which one? Then don't name it that. It's just like like naming things after cities, states. Big fan. Start naming it after people that you don't know. It's like, and using their middle initial. It just looks clunky and not awkward. No disrespect to people that name something else after them. Name a military base for them, or they already do that. But I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of naming things like that. But nobody fucking asked me, so that's why I'm not charging people for my opinion. Is nobody fucking asked me. You guys should use that next time. It says, hey, nobody fucking asked you. Say, well, I'm not charging you. That looks. This has been a journey, and not a difficult one, but it's been like you got to use. I got to use my non-drug induced brain to work on some of this stuff, and it's pretty cool. And my wife's like, why do you collect all these? I don't throw this stuff away. The only thing I don't like about sheet styrene is I think I have a part I can put on there. Is that you can't use like weld cement to glue it together. I love weld cement because it's just satisfying to take something that's multiple pieces and by the time you're done with it, it's one piece. Where is Akata? Yep, that's perfect right here. We cover up that hole, and we make it even more aggressive. I may not be able to call this junkyard dog. It seems too like, oh, it's just a junkyard dog over there. Like, dude, make it fucking aggressive. Like we're here to kill people. That kind of thing. Yeah, I haven't gone on Reddit Gaslands and probably won't. There's too many. It just seems like the common people on Reddit are just people that never had their ass beat, that have run their mouth their entire fucking life, and nobody set them in their place. Like people that have like cried fire in a movie theater their whole life, and like nobody's like brought them to task or anything. French didn't name, or did they? French. Their tanks? No, I think they were just a letter number designation in the manufacturer. By Why change name for Trump? Yeah, who cares? You know, I don't like. I'm not going to ever call it anything other than the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, I don't. You know, I just think it's silly renaming things now. I mean, if you're going to rename things, then rename it. The Gulf of New Spain. So how far back do you want to fucking go? So, regardless of how I feel about the current president, it has nothing to do with it. Just on principle. Just like, oh, well, we're renaming it. It's always going to be Mount McKinley to me. I'm not a renaming person, right? I don't like India got its independence, then they renamed everything to their other names. I'm like, that's fine. I don't call them that. Nothing against Indian people. People of the Indian continent persuasion. I'm not going to call it anything other than Madras or Calcutta or Bombay. Oh, it's Mumbai now. I said, okay, well, that's to you, I had a hard enough time not calling it Peking. But I don't really like Wade Gillis, because Wade Gillis is, even though the other one's commie, Pinyin makes sense. Wade Gillis has all these weird dashes and asterisks things. I'm never going to call it Hawaii or whatever the hell it's called. It's Hawaii. What do you call that island off of mainland China? Formosa. Call it whatever you want, man. I'm not offended by things being called the Gulf of America. It's just I have to think, where the fuck is that? Oh yeah, that's right. All right. Let's use something we haven't used yet, and I've had for a long time. Let's attempt to use it. And I don't know whether this is going to be a free agent or a redneck vehicle. I do not know. I don't think it's important. I think it can go both ways. A swinging vehicle. Well, yeah, it is a swinger. The rusty swinger. That's not bad. I have these huge ass bolts. Huge ass bolts. Actually, here's some metal plates too. I didn't know I had these things. I could use some of the stuff that I bought a long time and never used. What I was thinking about is these huge rivets. These bolt-on, big old overcompensating bolts. This thing having a decent exhaust on it, or we need to exhaust it fun? I'm having fun with this. Look, and I'm using things that I've had a long time, and I'm like, man, what am I going to use this for? Now is the time, Let's move this little guy out of the way. Well, the engine is down there. That would give you an exhaust port to it. The more cool I make this thing, the more of a cool name it needs to have. I see lots of people do these really cool builds, and it's these amazing vehicles. I don't have a name yet. I'm like, dude, and I guess I'm kind of falling into that, but I'm not going to show you guys, hey, here's this vehicle. I don't have it named yet. No. I usually, not in this example, and maybe not in a few other ones, but I usually have a name for it before I even build it. So I could put a double exhaust. I could put it coming out of this side and out of the other side. And it looks like it would sit pretty well. I kind of like it. Okay, that one sits really well and flush. What about this side? It's cool. That's where the engine is. That's pretty freaking cool. Complete and total coincidence. All right, well, what we need to do is we need to put this so that we can find a spot that is consistent on both of them. That's just a smidge inside that one line. So if I put that one there, does this one fit a smidge inside of this line? Tell me, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Okay. And this is one of these, you got to paint all these things black to even it out, because there's too much color noise. Color noise. So it's going to run across the top of this. And then it's going to attach there. Probably should use the slow super glue, but no, there's no super glue here. And then we'll do the same thing here. I mean, I've had these parts for a long time. Like, let's use them. And like, it's not like there's anything wrong with them. I just didn't have the. Oh, interesting. It'll be uneven. That one will come out of here. That one will come out of this side. I'm okay with it being uneven. That kind of gives it some personality. I hadn't even noticed that. I hadn't even noticed that it was uneven. Okay. Let's grab it by here. Ah. Ah. What I mean by uneven, it's here on this side and it's up here on this one. And I kind of like that. Now, I'm not an engineering major, how that could work, but I couldn't move it farther here because there's like these cans, and I like it to have the exhaust on both sides. And just to make sure this is secured properly. Let's do this. Let's put a little bit there. This stuff is like more watery than water. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this one so that we're sealed well. And let's do the same thing there, just for good measure. Getting heavy. But anyways, I don't know if that surprises you guys, but I would not get any more of those vehicles. Well, I mean, I wasn't going to, but well, let's just see. Maybe we'll do that as the next build, and just after auto, and we'll just see how it turns out. They'll turn out okay. The metal's awfully flimsy on them, you know. I'm touching something I shouldn't have. All right, yep. I could feel. I was feeling it shifting. And again, it looks kind of like ass because there's all kinds of different colors screaming at you all at the same time. I don't think I'm going to add this on there. Let's not go overkill and use up all our tools on one thing. And I don't know if this is meant to be used with a plate, or you can take them off and put the individual rivets, but we're going to leave that. We're going to leave that alone. Okay. I think I am going to put the mesh on the windows, make it look a little bit more aggressive. I do have these freaking horns. All right, folks, got to run and start breakfast duty. Have a great Sunday. It's rainy here in New York. I heard you guys got a shitload of rain. Probably back to the hobby desk this afternoon. Yo, what's up? What's up, Justinian? How you doing, man? I know, enjoying the beautiful weather up there. Yeah. We finally got rain. We finally got some rain, and I actually was thinking about you. It wasn't inappropriate, even if you wanted me to. No, I was thinking about I can't handle it being dreary, and yesterday it was dreary when we were doing our grocery shopping and stuff. I was like, man, I can't handle it being dreary. I don't want it to be hot, okay, but at least it can be happy. But I just can't deal with that. I can't deal with the dreariness. It's just not. Oh, don't tell me this fits. Man, if this fits, I'm gonna have a hard time keeping it in my pants. Please don't fit, please don't fit, please don't fit, please don't fit. Let's save this for somebody else. Actually, I don't want this to be super mad. I just want it to look like some redneck thing. It'd be cool. Put that damn tractor on the back side of this thing. And once we get this painted all black and start adding to this thing's gonna look. We do need to find a figure for it back there, and I think I've got some. I think I got some German dudes. Not that I want a German dude on it, but I can at least use his body from. Who's the manufacturer? I want to say it's a Skytrain. I want to say it's the crew that came with. I have some really yucky Krupp Protz trucks from Lizard's Grin. And I want to say they came with a crew, and they don't look. they're supposed to be Germans, but they don't look very Germanish, you know. Rain, 62 degrees. The 62's awesome, but I can't do the dreary, man. I'd have to eat ice cream. That's what I want. When it's cold, rainy, and dreary, ice cream. And I don't need to be eating any ice cream. And I don't say that because I dislike ice cream. What else do we have here? Now, the front of that thing looks great. It has a cool look. I like it. Me likey. Where's these? I got a couple of these cow horns. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it on this vehicle. It's just not redneck enough for that. This is kind of like Grease Monkey-ish, kind of. It's more Grease Monkey, but that actually looks pretty freaking cool. That actually looks pretty cool. But we'll save that for a vehicle that's more rednecky. What else we got? Does this work? Well, I don't mind putting spikes, but I don't like putting things that look like it might be a weapon when it isn't. It's a little bit of crying wolf. No, tires stick out too much. Okay. So we're going to put mesh on the windows. Let's go see if we can put a dude there. A dude sitting up there. Before I do that, because that's going to take a little bit of time, let's go ahead and prime this thing in black. I don't think I need to add anything else to it. What's this little thing up here? Anything? Is the top of this thing not flat? Yes, but what does that freaking do? Well, it kind of does make it a little bit more aggressive. Would you ever do a 1/3? I have, and now I won't do one again. And the reason why I don't do, unless I wargamed a 1/35 scale, which is possible, not for me, but the problem with 1/35 scale tanks is multiple things. They're really expensive compared to anything else. Then you got to decide which one you're going to do. I mean, I have so many tanks, I'm like, I can't think of which paint scheme. Well, I got 10 Shermans, just fucking do all the ones that you like. Problem solved. You can't do that with 1/35 scale tanks. They take too much time to do, and they're just, I've done them before. And I don't have a problem with that scale, but I've done them before. And what happened is I had like 35 kits and finished like 6 of them, or 8. So I had like, and you'd never play catch up because it takes so long to do it, each individual one. I actually think I like that little bit on there. Actually, I think I do. I think I do like that bit. Do you like that? But I can't believe I was able to use that for the cable. Like, man, I really had to dig deep. I had to dig deep to come up with stuff. Man, where could this be? Where could this be? trick is to use a figure that's a piece of shit. It's never going to get used for anything else. Not good figures. You don't want to send good figures here. I think it's going to take a bit of time to find it. I don't really want to do that while you guys are waiting. So we'll come back. That guy's going to get added afterwards. Let's go ahead and prime this guy. And while the primer's drying, we'll go back to Evil Otto. Okay? But before I prime that, let's go ahead and glue this bit on there. But yeah, I've done 1/35th scale tanks. And I don't know, I'll go back to doing models, but you know, I'm not really interested in rejoining the model meeting. It's on an inconvenient night, and it's just too difficult. It's just too difficult for those of us that, you know, have really demanding jobs. I'm not saying they don't have any demanding jobs. Mine's really demanding. Yeah, we'll do all that stuff when I'm fucking retired, and everybody else have a fucking demanding job and they can't go to it. The ancient Tamiya light tanks are sometimes cheaper than smaller scale vehicles. They are. Wasn't that the Tractix scale? Tractix is well above before my time. But I got into 20 millimeter because of the sculptor of a particular figure line that they had at the store in Tampa that we would go visit, and it got me into skirmish gaming. So it was actually a sculptor that got me, you know, plus I had the 1/72nd scale stuff when I was a kid. You know, so there's that tie-in. So I would never do any scale other than that because of that. Those reasons right there. But 115 is totally viable. You know, when I was doing it, when I got into it, 15 mil World War II didn't exist. There was one manufacturer and their stuff looked like ass. So I'm like, you know, just like there's no way I would do ancients that wasn't 15s. Like, you know, like all the resources are available in that. But when I did 1/35th scale tanks, nobody was doing chipping. Even the master, Francois Verlinden, did not chip. I'm like, am I remembering things incorrectly? I've got several books by Francois Verlinden. No chipping. It just wasn't a thing. It doesn't look right to me. Even when it's done by masters, it doesn't look right. Yeah, it's a personal choice. You know, we all have personal choices we do or don't do. You know, if I'm doing British late war vehicles, I'm not putting a white star on them. I'm not. It looks weird. Well, they did that. Well, they didn't do it on every vehicle. So the ones I'm modeling are those vehicles. You know, some things just don't look right to you. And that's okay. Now, I'm normally like, oh, let's just airbrush this. I ain't got time for that. We'll prime this. It's on top of Elmer's. Hopefully we won't bring the Elmer's back to life. Wake it up, so to speak. We'll just apply this and leave it alone. We won't scrub over it multiple times. I'm not opposed to airbrushing. I'm opposed to, like, stop everything I'm doing, stop the feed, to go out there and airbrush this thing to come back. You know, like, no, there's a better way to do this. Let's try doing it the easier way. Of those ancient Tamiya tanks, I had the M5A1, although that one's probably the more modern of the ancient ones. The Panzer II. The Panzer II is a good model. Still make it. Yeah, sometimes they're like 10 to be had for $10 or maybe less than $10. First one I got was the Panther. I've always been a fan of how the Panther looked. It's just a good looking tank. Now, if they would have made like an early Panzer III, yeah, I'd probably get that one, but they didn't. I don't know if they do now. All right. Since it's magnetic, sit your ass up there. And this doesn't have to cover great. This is gonna be painted. And the normal reaction would be to paint this little vehicle that's humping. The other one on top, it's sitting on top of the other one. Normally to paint it in some kind of like construction yellow. But I don't want the dissimilar in color. That's going to bother I don't like shit like that. So I don't think I'm going to go that route. And you can't go to a store and buy 1/35 scale models anymore. You used to be able to get them at this craft store called Ben Franklin's. Get them at traditional hobby stores too, but Ben Franklin used to carry them. And I'm sorry, Tamiya is the gold standard Tamiya is the gold standard for any models. They're old, they're not, I don't care. They go together. Nothing goes together like a Tamiya model. Nothing. The instructions are funny, humorous, even cute sometimes. Things are not overly robust, not underly robust, so that they break. A lot of like DML stuff. I'm going to call it DML. That's what we used to call them. That's what they were called when Hong Kong was, not run by a bunch of communists. I think that's when the change happened. Now it's Dwagon. DML. DML stuff might be more accurate shaped, but could run into a problem with it falling off on you. And let's face it, whatever I'm doing for wargaming will require some handling. Man, there's some wild paint schemes out there from 1941. I don't think I'll be replicating the ones I just sent you. Let's see what you sent me. Talking about Soviets. I thought you weren't going to get on you weren't building the Soviets yet. I like building both sides at the same time. Oh, those are ugly as fuck. Yeah, I wouldn't do those either. The top one looks Japanese. The bottom one looks the best, but still looks like ass. Yeah, I wouldn't do any of those. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were doing some kind of drugs in the 1940s. You got to forget about communism. I have not. So the Porsche Tiger is really interesting. I have not. I didn't used to like it. I thought it looked bad. And now I think it looks better than the Henschel Tiger. Well, what people refer to as the Henschel Tiger. The pre-production. I like the hump on the cupola that the first one has. It only made 50 of them. which still is like 1/9 of them all, or the pre-production models. But all of them have a decent looking running gear. The original Tiger model, that they only made one of them that has the running gear from the original Tiger was going to have. It's funny, multiple people make that model, and there's only one verified use of it as a command vehicle in the Elephant unit that survived Kursk and got sent to Italy. 654th. I think it's the 654th. It's the 654th or 653rd. But whichever one got to Italy, there was only one of those. There's only one of those tanks. That's ugly as sin. It's an ugly fucking tank. The turret's too far forward. You know, where the turret is on a tank makes a big difference on how it looks. A Pershing could look a lot better if the turret wasn't so damn forward. A Porsche Tiger could look better if it wasn't so damn forward. There's only one of them, so you know it's like just deal with it. You know, that's how it looks. A Panther would look like ass if the turret was farther forward. You know, lines on a Panther. Yeah, those are some ugly paint schemes. If you painted those and you did them well, Ben, most people that would see it would think you don't know how to fucking paint. And that's the problem with like doing like snow schemes. You can't make them so slap on that anybody off the blue would be like, your stuff looks like shit, dude. Even though that's exactly what it should look like. You know? You ended up with the Soviet stuff coming out first. You figured you'd start with them. Yeah, well, if you're killing Nazis or communists, everybody wins. Unless you're a communist or a Nazi. I'd say, communists aren't people. Well, Nazis aren't either. You know where I'm going with that. So, that's the grudge matches. That's the grudge match of grudge matches. And it's fun to play. It's fun to play Soviets. You can make decisions like you're drunk all the time. Probably are. And with the exception of those gas trucks, everything else that the Soviets have is relatively attractive. Vehicle-wise, land vehicle-wise. Planes, they got some ass-looking planes. They're ones that nobody knows what the hell they are, but they still have some ass-looking planes. Like, I see people all the time, they'll like post pictures of, here's my tanks that I built. And every fucking tank they built, 1/35th scale, every one of them's German. It just, you know, I get it. German tank schemes are more cool looking than Shermans. I'm not arguing that. But we need to have stuff on both sides. It just seems like you're up to no good. I'm just saying that, you know? I don't want to send that message. I'd rather send a different message. And I'll be the first to admit, German shit looks cool. It does. Especially soldiers' uniforms. I mean, there's nobody's soldiers' uniforms in the Second World War. It looks and I'm not talking about the SS marching guys. I'm just talking about regular Wehrmacht guys. Regular Wehrmacht uniform looks awesome. Yeah, they fought for a fucking evil cause, and but it doesn't matter. I mean, like, painting dudes, they look awesome. They do. That's why people. That's why they're so popular. That and they fought the whole war. Except from like May to September '45 when they were knocked out. But that's why they're so popular. But they have to have somebody to fight, and you can make Soviets look pretty freaking cool too. There's people out there that are painting Soviets right now, figures that look amazing, that look just as interesting as the Germans do. And the desert, all bets are off because I think both sides in the desert are super interesting, equally so, equally so. I'd say the British tanks are probably better looking than the German tanks. They just got a lot of flavor, and they got all that counter scheme is just like, who the fuck doesn't like the counter scheme? Everybody likes the counter scheme. That's like the coolest paint scheme of tanks of the Second World War. It's better than any. I think the counter scheme is cooler than the German 3-color. But they didn't use it everywhere, and they didn't use it, They didn't use it on every tank. I saw a picture recently where somebody posted a picture of a model of a Cromwell that they did in desert colors. Well, that's wishful thinking, but didn't happen. Cromwell and Middlestone. Man, the slime is strong with this one. We got the Formula One race today to watch today. Watched the sprint race yesterday, and it just dawned on me. And I said something to my daughter, and this is my Gaslands theme coming out with me. I think it's really weird to not have German people driving German cars on a German team. But that's what I like. I mean, for me, it's all nationalistic, right? And I have French cars. French people are going to be driving it with, and they're always patriotic, even though they're criminals in this game. Everybody, but that's just part of the appeal for me. Now the paint did crack a little bit, but I think that's fine. It's going to give it enough for the real color that we want on it to grab. So already looks better because we eliminated the 50 colors that were on here. Not really 50, but there was like 5 or 6. The 5 or 6 colors that this thing had. Now, while that's drying, Evil Auto. Soviet stuff came in first. So what's going on? So you tell me that the BT-5s and 7s, Battlefront doesn't make them, or they're out of stock and they're not restocking? Like, those are... I'm a big fan of the BT-7 with the 7M turret, the conical turret. That's a good looking vehicle. Aesthetically, it's a good looking vehicle. The missus is coming home this evening. Shouldn't go to bed until 3:30 this morning. Good. Maybe she can come home and she'll be asleep the whole day and you leave you alone. Oh, wait. I mean, unless you want to interact with her, you know. It's good that she's got some hobbies, right? That's a good thing. Let's paint the black. Let's primer the stuff on this guy that would get primered. That's a good thing. The missus. That's how you should refer to her, not like, he who should she who must be obeyed, or the boss, or that's not cool, man. I don't do stuff like that. Yeah, I don't. You know, you guys are a team. I don't do that to my wife. I don't want to boss her around. I don't want her telling me what to do either. Just saying. It's a team. They'll be out soon enough. Battlefront's doing early war again. What do they do? Did the molds get back or go bad or something? I just would never play their rules. And I've tried playing them. Their rules are just, let's just say they're not for me. Okay? Their website is awesome. It could be a little bit better organized, maybe, to find things. They got some really useful articles. A lot of useful articles on units that provide, like, clarity. Because they use, like, maps and unit markings. And, I mean, they know what they're doing. No, they aren't re-releasing them until this winter, from what I've been told. So Zvezda is the only plastic option, 15 mil, and only metals over here are packs of 3 from Command Decision. And those used to look like ass. I don't know how they look like now, but they used to look like ass. The missus gets home, complains about something, sits in her chair, and crashes out. You reminded me of, like, oh, so she's like Archie Bunker. Not that I ever watched that show. Um, Sits in her chair. I guess there's a lot of shows that have somebody sits in their chair. Is that a common thing from, like, people of other generations, that they have their chair that only they sit in? I think people are surprised when they come over to my house and you invite them over for dinner and they go, "Do you guys have assigned seats?" I'm like, "No." We have assigned seats. I mean, I've got one bed that I sleep on and a certain part of the bed that I sleep on, you know. But that's only because I prefer that side of the bed and the wife prefers not that side. The Soviets fight like they're in a parking lot. Yeah, and that's the problem with a business model. Is like, when I grew up, you either made rules or you made models. Not like, okay, let's do both. And I understand why you do both, but then you have business decisions that drive why you do things, even if they're not accurate. Tanks shouldn't be touching each other. I don't like compressed scale. I'm okay if you're doing like micro armor. One tank represents multiple tanks, but Flames of War, it's supposed to be one tank equals one tank. Well, if one tank equals one tank, why is facing like front flank? It should be more specific. It'd be like individual angles and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not the intended audience. And I admit, I am a religious zealot when it comes to the Second World War. It's just my thing, you know. I like to learn something every time I'm playing a historical game. If you're playing something like that, you're not learning anything, you know. Archie Edith Bunker had their chairs. They're in the Smithsonian now. The chairs, not the bunkers. Yeah, I never had a chair that was verboten for anybody else to sit in, you know. We're more of a commune than that. Ooh. Oh, I feel dirty. I feel dirty just saying that. When my daughter was in grade school, in like third, fourth, fifth grade kind of stuff, you know, she went to public school, right? And at the beginning of the year, they'd give you a list of supplies that everybody had to bring. Just like we had to in the 80s and 70s, probably. Here's your list. You have all these items. Crayons, at least however many. Paste. I think you used paste like one fucking time, right? But you had to have paste. Elmer's glue. Pencil sharpener. Pencils. Erasers. Whatever. Cool. Standard. Always been the case, right? On my daughter's generation, it's probably even worse now. I don't know how you get worse than this, but you had to bring all this stuff. Then everybody would bring it, and you wouldn't put it in your individual desk. It would go to some communal place where everybody. I'm like, fuck this. Like, no, that's like, you know, and here's the problem with it. It isn't like, okay, some people don't have the supplies to bring because they can't afford them. That's fine. Then have people bring some extra stuff, right? But not like, I want this brand of crayons, but somebody else brings Ching Chang Chung dollar store ones that don't work well. And then they get put all in one communal thing. And when it's time to get crayons, you get crayons that somebody else bought that are a piece of shit. Like, not cool, man. Not cool. And I'm not a particularly greedy person. Right? Like, I'm not like, money. It's all about money. Gotta make more money. I'm not that person, okay? But that's, like, not right. Like, that's, like, not cool. You know? She Who Must Be Obeyed from the venerable BBC comedy Rumpole of the Bailey. And see, She Who Must Be Obeyed, where I would hear it from, as Neil Bortz would say, which is like the only talk show that I liked to listen to back in the day. Well, back in the day, was it that many days ago? 10 years ago? Something like that. 10 years, 15 years ago, whatever. That's what he would say all the time. She Who Must Be Obeyed. Well, maybe they have more of a master and servant type of relationship. Hey, whatever works for you, you know. They make collars and leashes in all sizes. If that's your thing, you know. Okay, so we got the front of that and the back of that one done. This is a sexy car. A meaty, sexy car. Okay, I think we're convinced. I just don't know if I want to put this in hot water and try to bend this. I've had bad young adult experiences putting things in hot water and bending them. With relation to like tank tracks, and it just did not go well. I think we're going to leave this. I think we're going to leave this thing alone. I think we're going to leave this thing alone. He definitely borrowed it from Rumpole. The show that I thought was really funny from the BBC. And I'm surprised that the daughter didn't like it. And it's a shame because I thought it really funny. If somehow the quality wasn't as grainy as Allo Allo. Allo Allo is really, really funny. Yes, it's stupid, okay? But so's Hogan's Heroes. And it's a lot more intelligent than Hogan's Heroes. I don't have a problem with Hogan's Heroes, but Hogan's Heroes is less, although it's more intelligent than Hogan's Heroes, and also a lot funnier. But the girls didn't like it. But, and my daughter knows enough about the Second World War, you're welcome, that, like she went to New Orleans. I'm like, don't go to the World War II museum that I haven't been to. Don't go without your guide. You're not going to enjoy it. And she didn't. She wanted to go visit a friend of hers that lives out there that thinks the Russians were the good guys. In the Second World War. They're evil now, but somehow they were okay. When Stalin was at the helm, they were the good guys. They're evil now. But she just couldn't get into it. And it is very dated looking. I think it's pretty funny. I just have a hard time sitting down and watching something on TV that only I like to watch. I just feel like it's a wasted opportunity. Like pretty much the only thing I watch by myself without anybody else watching me is 3D Bot Maker. The guy that does the racing. Because, like, I don't know anybody that likes that. And it's like a 10-minute segment. It's not like I'm sitting here, watching episode after episode after episode of stuff. If I'm going to watch episode after episode, it's going to be something that we'll watch as a family, or I'll watch with a daughter. And she's had kind of an interest in watching Spanish programming things since she's been to Spain and kind of understands things. So we started watching, they call it here Money Heist, which supposedly is really good. I watched 5 or 6 episodes. It didn't really grab me, but I'm like, okay, I'll watch it with a daughter. But man, they speak so fast. And the problem is, it isn't a problem because I just put English subtitles on it. But the problem is that they're speaking so fast in Spanish that the English subtitles are coming on and coming off so quick that, man, you got to read really fast, so. But yeah, I'm not going to make time to watch TV that only I watch. It's just like a waste of time. I might as well just do this, It was like those stupid shows. What was it? Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. Only reason I watched them is everybody watched them. So you had something to talk about with, most people. It Ain't Half Hot Mom. It's from the same folks. It's persona non grata from the BBC. I think you'd like it. Well, I tend to like English comedy. As a general rule, I tend to like it. I would say that all 3 of us tend to like it. I mean, my daughter watched the Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the first time when she was like 10. Obviously, one we could do subtitles because the quality is so poor. It's old and they didn't throw a lot of money at it. I get it. Even stuff that's American during that time period is pretty crummy too. And she really liked it. So we like British humor as a general rule. As a general rule. And I like foreign stuff because it's actors generally that you've never seen before and aren't pigeonholed in some role that you have to unsee to appreciate it. And I'm going to have subtitles anyways because I'm hard of understanding. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win, I don't like foreign films that are dubbed. Like I struggled. I think I've tried to watch it 4 or 5 times, that 800 thing, which is horrible Chinese propaganda, but I'm not going to learn from history from it. I just wanted to see some uniforms and stuff from that China. But the dubbing is just so ridiculous. Like, hey Tony, let's go grab a pizza. All right, we're gonna go and get on our sampan. It's just like the voice and the material don't go together. All right, I gotta go to the little boy's room again, get a refill, and I will be right back. Persona non grata. I figured, oh, I would be really good at Latin. No. No, just because I speak a Latin language doesn't mean that Latin is easy to understand. Au contraire. Nope. And this thing is so slippery. So slippery. What a cool car. All right. I keep thinking this is articulated up. No. It just goes from side to side. I'd be fine if it was like stuck like this, right? But the fact that you can move it is nice because, like, let's say if it was stuck like that and you're playing Gaslands and somebody comes in and hits this guy from the rear, you can't position the car where it's supposed to be, right? Because the damn car is in its own way. So you could do that. Whoop. Just adds you. It gives you that added flexibility, and I have the magnets anyways, so might as well. Okay, this turret, or most of the turret, is going to have a color match similar to this, which isn't a problem. One of the things I actually enjoy doing. Evolado needs armor plate on the window. Where are the armored sections? I've got one left. It has these two little notches where like two guns would go. And I just don't feel like I should waste it on that. Even though it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good sitting there. Oh, can't use that. It's not flat on the back of it. Is there a wang here that might work? A couple of them here. Nope, three of them. Let's see what we got. Speaking of 1/35th scale modelers, people go like, oh, why are you building all these cars and not playing the game? Why do 1/35th scale models build tanks and never do anything with them? They do it for therapy so they don't go after people that ask stupid questions. I don't think that's an improvement. And that one doesn't sit right. No wang. But what I will do is, I will take the type pattern one, and cut this out of the type pattern one. Let's try this on for size. Let's see how this works. Can I get away with using a pencil? A pencil is so much easier than using a permanent marker that is not permanent at all. 10 folks, man, good morning. Sundays are always the busiest day. It's like almost like you guys got all your honeydews list done. Or maybe like, I'll do anything other than go to church, even watch Tony. Hey, whatever works for you. I may cut that a little bit. And we're going to do it the... Do you want to do it the... Yeah, I want to do it the NASCAR way. That way I can just... I'm going to cut a notch in it for the vision. That's pretty close. I'm just going to cut a little bit bigger than it needs to be. So we're going to cut like that. Cut this across the bottom. Cut this like this. And across the top like that. And let's see if we saved ourselves some time, because sometimes this takes a little longer than it should. Well, it's certainly too big. So if we keep the top the same, and the top does look good. Let's keep the sides equal height-ish. No. We need to go to like this zone here. So I'm going to cut, say, that off. Okay. That's good. So we need to taper. And how far up do we need to taper? I like the top where it is. So we need to go in maybe half of a box. So half of a box there to there. Then half of a box there to there. Okay, and then taper this in a little more. And taper this in a little more. Don't like how this finish turned out here. Let's cut that even. That's better. Now, let's bend this a little bit. Harriet, welcome. Going to learn Gaslands today. Picked up the book finally, started buying Hot Wheels for it a year ago and never played it and accidentally started collecting Hot Wheels. Cheapest, best hobby ever. It's incredible. It's really incredible how awesome these things are for a friggin' $1. And I had probably a dozen vehicles. Not built, but like I owned a dozen vehicles before I had the rules. And one of the first things when I got back into it, September of last year, was... I had this car built that looked a certain way. And I'm like, okay, well, how many points is that? Because I'm a what you see is what you get person. It's your incentive to buy more vehicles. And now we got, 120 of them that are completely done, something like that. And that's why I settled on the point values that my vehicles are now, is I've got them in my own kind of categories. I got 27 pointers, I got 35 pointers, I got 52 pointers, and I got like 13s. And it's just from a balance standpoint of like, I'm providing all the vehicles. It doesn't really matter. It's a narrative. Like, how do I make it balanced? All right. Well, everybody gets like 227s and 35, or 213s and a 35, or just something to kind of balance things out, to kind of, initially I thought on what you see is what you get. Initially what I thought is, okay, let's just put spots that have a magnet and drill a magnet in, right? I got lots of these magnets and you can switch out weapons. Well, that's an unincentive to paint more cars. Because you'd be like, okay, I really like this body style, so this is going to be the car that I use. And we'll just switch it out with whatever things. Instead of like, let's make this car that has to be played a certain way. And it's just random whether or not you get to play that one or not. I let people choose. I don't care, you know. What's really cool about this game is at least the way I'm playing it is, none of these cars are anybody's cars. They're just like communal. Oh, I feel dirty saying that. But I'm just saying that it's not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about narrative. You know, and you know, you generally don't want to play the same car multiple times in a row because you don't experience different ways of doing it. It's awesome. It's an awesome game. And you know, there's these things, I don't know how they sell these things for $1. They have so much detail on them, and you can enhance them, and you know, and you can spend a couple hours or a lot more than a couple hours. This thing's insane, but it'll look somewhat unique. This is kind of the exception to the rule. Most of the time, I just go with what the car is, put some guns on it, what kind of theme, what kind of name goes with it, and roll with it, you know? The biggest problem with Magnus is drilling in a die cast is just damn near not any fun. It's a dangerous activity, or it could be. Even being careful, because they could slip on you. It's just like it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So, yeah, I have about 120 cars that I've done since September. You know, all these are done. There's 55 in here. Well, one's missing. He went missing. He went AWOL somewhere else. There's 55 in there. And I bought 2 other cabinets here for that as well. And then when we're done with that, we're probably going to end up hiding some of the tanks and do. You know, I've got hundreds of cars to do, and it's really inexpensive. It really is inexpensive. You know, go to one game convention, that's a couple $100. Okay, that's the same price. You know. So, and I don't automatically switch out the wheels. It just depends. You know, it just depends what it is. And there's such a variety of vehicles, you know. And then the other thing is, let me show you this since you're just getting started. You don't have to do this. Do it however you want to do it. But this is just a food for thought. Probably the most important thing, at least for me, let me see if I can find it here, is to have cards already made up so when you play the game, you can roll with it. And let me give you an example of some of the ones that I did. And this is, I think, a huge part of the enjoyment if you're playing the game. If you're building them, you're not playing the game, who cares? But every vehicle I have has one of these things. So you've got a picture of the actual vehicle, what it looks like, color-coded, because you know, if you have multiple vehicles, and we put these in protective sheets, but if you have multiple vehicles of these, your brain's like, okay, blue car should be the blue sheet of paper, right? You know, it's weight, how much damage it can take, what it's armed with, any special rules here, and what maximum gear it can go. And we'll put a die on there so you can dial that up. It's got space there for a die. How much handling, which is how many skid dice it can play with a crew member, and the cost. And every vehicle has or should have this, so it's like easy to play. You know, whichever one, you know, grab and gun or gold digger or, you know, the wambulance, you know, what have you. So this is probably more important to playing the game for me than actually having a what you see is what you get vehicle. And they're both important, but this is like immediate, like, you know, the first couple times we played Gaslands 7-8 years ago, like, we're gonna get together. Nobody would pre-design a car. We'd spend an hour trying to design cars that we all got about the same. And it's like, you know, everybody would have a minigun, and, you know, they would have a performance car or a regular car and a Ram, and it was like a bunch of the same cars instead of, you know, hundreds of them that are all individually different, from Mud Puppy to the Gas Hole to the Boom Bus, Yellow Bastard, you know, so forth. So this is whatever system you use. I knew that immediately I wanted something that was easy to scan and you'd know which vehicle is which one, because we're playing multiple. What I decided to do was pretty. I don't want cars to respawn in the game. I just want you to have multiple cars. I don't like the idea of this. It's too video gamey that way, you know. It's not a. I just made it with Excel, and I'm not sure that that's the final way I'm going to do it, but it's going to be something like that. Ideally, it'd be 3x5 cards, but it isn't that. So I haven't decided to do that yet, and I'm way behind on them. I've got like 35 vehicles that I've built. They're completely done. They're named. They're already designed, but they're all already designed on a sheet of paper, right? Like jalapeno popper, glazed pursuit. They already have a name. They're already designed here. I just need to take this and make it in one of those cards. So yeah, it's Excel. I mean, you could do anything with Excel. I use Excel on a daily basis. Anybody who uses Excel, unless you're like a super accountant, we're using 3% of what Excel can do. But you can do a lot with that 3% because it's like graph paper. I want this over here. I want this bigger. That kind of stuff. It makes sense. So should you strip the car's paint before to repaint? So, on a general rule, let me give you an example of. Let's take a look at Yellow Bastard. Okay, Yellow Bastard is a good example. Yellow Bastard is probably the first vehicle that I got it. Let's get Yellow Bastard out here and let's get Mr. Green Screen. Okay? These guys were some of the first vehicles I did in September when I had the reawakening. We'll call it the reawakening. I didn't have any guns for these vehicles. So it wasn't until, I got guns for them. Let's take a look at these two. Let's take a look at these two vehicles in particular. So I can share what I've learned, so you don't have to relearn it. Right? You don't have to do what I'm not on a power trip. You do you. This vehicle has some great lines. It already came with a vehicle with these great lines. So why would I repaint this? Like it's really cool. It's got a Dodge. It's got in particular this one. This is a Barracuda. Oh, this needs to be glued together. This is really old schools. I thought I was going to put figures inside of it, which I'm all for. They just don't make figures for them. They're different that I like. That are different. They're easy to find. It's got sponsors here and everything. Like, why would I repaint that? So what I do is I take the original vehicle and I clear coat it with a flat. And what the clear coat flat allows it to do is you can weather it. You can put a wash that some people call it modulation. I call it make it look uneven. If you go you see a car like this, you're only going to see this if you go to the showroom where this is at. It needs to have some not weathering something different. So what I do is I clear coat it in a flat, let that dry, and then apply a brown wash like Strong Tone, and you can thin it however you want. This is all water-based. I use only water-based stuff for the most part. Let this dry, and then do the dry brushing and adding the other things on here, and it makes it look worn, and then clear coat it at the end to seal it. But they end up looking. You guys are probably getting a lot of kickback with the weathering. They look, and what I really like is this front of this vehicle was completely like chrome with no detail, no lights, nothing painted. Like I love painting lights. Going online and going, okay, this car is a I don't even know what the hell it is right now. Coronet. I think it's a Dodge Coronet. So what's the rear lights on a Dodge Coronet look like then? And you paint them on there. Now, that might not be important to a lot of people, but it is to me. So you get to learn about the cars and stuff like that as you go. But these stripes, this was already green. This already had these black stripes on it. It didn't have these armor pieces. And I took the armor pieces and I tried to kind of color match it so that it looked like the crew on this vehicle wanted to make all these pieces look like it's together instead of just being like just lumped on there. But I don't like making big rust buckets as a general rule. I like making vehicles that have some coloration. Sure, they can look worn and rusty and all that kind of stuff, but it just depends. you know? Exactly. Don't repaint. Most cars I don't want to repaint. Now there's some vehicles I have repainted and they took forever to do. But there's some that are just like, you know, they have some awesome graphics. Like, why would you want to repaint them? Like this, see, this is one of the ones from my Mexican lowrider team. You know, this thing's beautiful. Why would I repaint this? No, I added the missiles, and you got to paint the missiles and all that kind of stuff. But this striping, it'd take me forever to paint that, and then I got to think about it. And I'm like, it's done. You know. And it could be, you know, here's another one. This is an Impala. Look at these. Almost look like little Doritos. The paint scheme on there. Like, why would I repaint that? Now, if you don't want it to look like this, sure, repaint it. But this thing's beautiful. And when you repaint it, you add a lot of extra time to it. A lot of extra time. I mean, unless you're doing something basic like this is the first vehicle I ever did. Leadfoot. I forget what color it was originally. I want to say purple. I think it was purple. This is a tuned 49 Mercury looking type car. Yeah, but most of the time I picked up this van, 350. This is my 350 van because it got 350 calibers on it. It came in this gorgeous green. Its green is beautiful. Like, I'm not going to repaint that. We're going to weather it so it looks like it's worn. Yeah. But, you know, something like Hippie Kaye was one of the first vehicles I did like 7 or 8 years ago. This is all hand painted. It just took fucking 30 hours to do. Like, I don't have 30 hours to do it. If I don't mind spending 30 hours doing this, but I'd like to have, you know, 15 cars out of it or, you know, 10 cars out of it. Not one car out of it. This is a complete... So normally I don't strip them because you're just adding more steps and the end result isn't any better. But you take something like this, the garbage truck. White trash, right? That's what this thing's called, white trash. It was all white and orange. Bright ass fucking orange. So we took all the orange and we primed it and made it look a little bit less crazy all over the place, screaming at you from every direction. And it already had this e-waste removal stuff on it. We just weathered it and made it look like a trash truck. I love this one. It's so simple, you know. But people that do the graphics and stuff on the vehicles, like, there's no reason to undo any of that stuff if it works for you. Usually it's a selling point, you know. Usually it's a selling point. When your first car, you plan to use a Ferrari F40. It has all the Ferrari logos, and I want to keep those. Which Ferrari do I have? I have a whole Italian team with Italian cars. I've only gotten one done so far. Because I don't follow the narrative in the books. Is this an F40? It's an F40. Okay. This is Falco Rosso, Red Falcon. So yeah, it's got the Ferrari logo. Why would I repaint this? You know, but look, it's got to paint the tail lights. Yeah, go online. What's the tail lights of a Ferrari look like? Got a minigun on it. You know. Yeah, this great hobby. Cheap as hell to get into. Everywhere you go, there's something to look for. Like, I wonder what kind of cars they have there. You know, like it's freaking really cool. You know, and then you can get some. Here's a perfect example of something not to repaint. This is like some gangster type car. It says the Bully Goat on it. You can't tell. So this ended up being the Bully Goat. And it's loud and ridiculous. It was either purple, which works fine, and everything that wasn't purple was either chrome or like bright yellow. Well, you need to like eliminate all the noise and like pick a theme, you know? Yeah. So, put a ram on it. You know, it's the Bully Goat. Great hobby. But I like vehicles to still look like the original vehicle they came from. Many people don't I don't want them to look, not every one of them will look apocalyptic, you know? But, you know, you do what you want to do. I've got this old truck here. This is the Butcher. This is probably one of the most apocalyptic looking vehicles that I have. You know, it's got a minigun. It's got blood splatter on it. I think it's the only one that has blood splatter on it. Well, it has to have blood splatter on it. Look what it's got. You know? You know what I mean? Chew people up. So, and I got this from a secondhand store. We added piping, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's really cheap. You can have a really big variety between one vehicle and another. You know, you went off the deep end, probably have 100, ain't nothing. Amateur. As a result of this, just start buying cars I like them. Yeah, it's cool. You know, it doesn't matter if they're beat up or not. You know, you can take a beat up car, make it look good. I had an old beat up car that I had from the 1970s. It was falling apart in different pieces. It was a Datsun Sunny. Let me show you a picture of it, and I'll show you what this thing turned out. But this one was a lot of work. Let's see if I can find this relatively quick. I know I have a picture of it. Actually, I should probably just search online and tell you what it looks like. Of course, it was in destroyed shape. Okay, so this is it Tomica? No, it's probably easier to find it like this. Go here, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna go to photos, and okay, let me show you some pictures. It was originally a metallic green, and I hand painted it with polyester red paint, probably in the late 80s. I don't know why, I thought I was going to use it for something else. This is what it looked like when I got it. When I got it back, because my brother actually had it in storage. I hadn't seen it in probably 40 years. Well, I decided I was going to turn it into one of my Japanese team vehicles called Sunny Side Up. So I cut it, add other stuff to it, and this is what we got now. This is the same vehicle. Painted a rising sun on it. And it was just basically, it was junk. It was for the junkyard. You know? And the best thing about this is you can then start doing things like making advertising and stuff for the game. You know, this is just made out of sticks and printed off the computer. And I don't like the fluff that's in the game. I make my own fluff. They're all gladiatorial teams that are all, you know, Asians drive Asian cars, that kind of stuff. Here's my Rednecks team, right, with the platforms that we made, all with hot glue gun. Freaking awesome. Not available in stores. You know, so anywhere you go, there's something to look at it. Take a door stopper, make a ramp out of it. And it just takes time. This is like zero cost. Relatively zero cost. So. Great hobby. Great hobby. Oh, gotta put this guy back. Now, I was talking about earlier, it'd be nice, I don't have one, but it would be nice to get a metal detector. Go to a park that you know kids like play with cars at. Find old cars that have been lost to civilization, and bring them back to life in the Gaslands way. I think I think that'd be pretty cool. Not that I need any cars, but someone needs to start an Etsy page. Yeah, yeah, that's all done with AI help. Let's put it that way. Still printed by hand, but not any of the painting. But like, dude, if you had to paint your own advertising sign, like, okay, I got one done. That's it. Like, I would take you. I need to spend 40 hours doing something else. I'm not opposed to doing it, but like, you need to get some help. You know. Yeah, great hobby. Here's one. Has transit written on it. Guarantee the name of this thing's gonna have transit in the name. But it's like this gang tag. Like, why would I repaint this? Like, it's cool. You know? So, yeah, this one. It's got clowns on it. Well, I have a clown team. I don't know who this guy's gonna be, but it'll be this body color, which is fine. It'll have these clown graphics, and then we'll probably change the wheels and maybe add a ram, make it more menacing looking. Depending on what kind of a clown it is. Great hobby. And then you go into some toy aisle and you see that there's like adults. There's nothing wrong with this, but there's adults that are in there collecting shit. It's like, look, I'm creating things. I'm playing a game with them. I'm socially interacting with folks, and you're just buying shit, and you can't even take it out of the package because your hobby is just hoarding things, hoping they go up in value and never selling them. Like, I would prefer not to repaint them, but to like enhance them with washes and things like that, because like it already gives you kind of an idea of what it would look like, so. Anyways, great hobby. Welcome. I usually do all of my hobbying on this channel so I can stay on track and focused. Otherwise, I'll be like, hey, let me think about something 15 minutes later. I'm surfing the internet. I don't get anything done. I do this to get things done. So, welcome and grab a seat if you want, I got several people that do the same thing. They just listen to some dumbass named Tony just ramble on, and they work on whatever it is that they're doing. Luckily, I don't care about the rare Hot Wheels. I don't either. Generally, the rarer Hot Wheels are, and I don't have the gambling gene in me. I'm not like, I want to get. I just don't have that in me. I'm like, I like that one because I like that one. And let's say you make a mistake and you bought something you didn't want. How much did you spend? Exactly. You spent like no money on it, right? So, but yeah, it's a great hobby, great hobby. And I'm new to it after painting miniatures for decades. So, so it's not like it's my first rodeo, but it's my first rodeo in this event. And the game's decent. The game is decent and varied enough that it provides a really good narrative, and really funny things can happen that are, that are real zany. Even when you're trying to play, you're trying to drive correctly, things happen that are, yeah, the rare Hot Wheels generally are in paint schemes that are not very attractive, that you probably wouldn't want, I knew I saved all your Flames of War and Team Yankee sprues for a reason. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah, this game is this game is so anti-Warhammer and those other things. It's almost like the Hot Wheels is paying you in cars. It's like, it's just so different. Like, you could spend 3-4 hours on something that cost $1. Like, it's just, price isn't even an issue, Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of sprues of 20 millimeter stuff, because 20 millimeter is my scale for World War II stuff, and I've not been able to use much of it because I don't want to use things that are recognizable. Like for instance, something like this. This is an HO scale, so 1/87 scale Tiger 1. And I can't use it for my 20 millimeter gaming. And I don't do 15s. It'd be too big for 15s. So it's kind of like this in between scale. So this is going to be a tank. The tank rules in this game are horrible. Okay, they're just generic as hell. But that's not important, you know. So this, I'm going to turn this. I'm going to paint this like it's made out of a paper bag, and I'm going to call it the Paper Tiger, and it's going to be for the Asians. So you know, it's everything is like that. I get a lot of joy out of coming up with crazy double entendre names for all kinds of stuff. So make it what you want it, you know. All right, let me check on one thing, and then this one's. I didn't. This truck on the bottom was awesome. I didn't know what to do with it, so I really had to scratch my brain. I've got like a bulldozer that's on top, and we made put a magnet on here. So then we got this is actually the leg of a lull, and a spare wheel that we're using and this is going to be a wrecking ball vehicle. So this one's kind of a long build, but it'll be pretty cool. I'll be right back in one moment. All right, we're going to try to wrap this up in 15 minutes. We're going to do real life stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, so grab a seat, subscribe. That allows you to, get dinked when I'm on, if that's what you're interested in or not, Brainstorm. This is, I'm a World War II guy, but this game, these builds are freaking awesome. All right, we want to cut a slot in here for the vision. And I think I would like it. And we really only need it for the driver. Let's knock out this one and this one. And knock out this and this and this and this and this and this. And this and this. Let's knock out those. Probably the most disappointing thing about building these things is oh yeah, just use like mesh from like a Florida room is what we call them here, a repair kit, and just put that over the mesh, for the protect. That's like impossible to glue. It's just a mess. So this is actually 3D printed from a company called Switchyard Studios on Etsy, and they come in sheets, really cheap. I said that quietly because I don't want them to raise their prices, but really cheap. And they have a couple different grades. This is the tight grade. This one's a little bit more open. And you can cut it like graph paper, Decent amount of battle group, okay? Cool. Yeah, it's funny. This game's kind of the opposite of what I prefer in World War II. I'm real particular. You see that? I can't tell what I cut. And I got my contacts out, so we should be able to see all of it. Let's, we know we need to eliminate this. But the car stuff is it's amazing. It's amazing. And then the thing is, there's all kinds of stuff that you don't know, that you wouldn't know. Like, I wouldn't know that if you go to like a big box store, like if you're talking about like a Target or a Walmart or even a Walgreens or, who else has these things? Dollar General, Dollar Tree, any of these places in the U.S., I assume you're in the U.S., they're not going to have 2024 models. So they're going to only have the latest, and they get released in cases, and there's different things in cases, and sometimes the styles come back maybe in a different paint scheme. So usually if you see something you like, if you don't buy it when you see it, it's more difficult to get it later. I'm not going to say it's going to cost you more money, because you could still, there's a place in a town 40 miles from us, the next town south, the next major town south, that has this place called Vintage Toy King, and they have all kinds of used things that sometimes are used, like some of these vehicles that I've never seen before in my entire life, or ones that are actually carded that are still $1, which technically is cheaper than the ones in the store. The store are like $1.18, $1.27, $1.32, something like that. So they're technically cheaper, but they're older vehicles that you can't get anymore. They may not be worth anything, but they're worth a lot to us. That maybe you want a certain design. We don't care that it's not collectible. I don't like the idea of collectible things. It just preys on people being gamblers, which I am not. That voodoo does not work on me. But it works on a lot of people, and it drives the prices of things up. So that doesn't mean I won't buy cars that don't cost $1. Like, I don't mind going to a store that's like, let's say it's a secondhand store. Let's say this store down in that other town had cars from previous years. They aren't anything special. They're just not normally available. And he wants to charge, say, $3 for each. I'm fine with that. There's a finder's fee. right? That's his finder's fee. You don't have to buy it either, but the fact that it's available is kind of cool, you know? And like those, I've got lots of them. But of all the cars I have, and I have a lot, I've got about 120 of them done, and probably 3 times for sure, or 4 times. I don't think I'm quite 4 times more to do of each. Remember, I've done 120 cars since September, so I usually knock out 3 a week, something like that. It depends. I'd say 95% of them I've paid $1 for, or they've been given to me. So, like my personal vehicle, I wanted to buy my personal vehicle, the car that it is, and very difficult to get a hold of. As a matter of fact, that if you want one new, it was like $15. So I found a used one out of the package for $10. That's the most expensive car that I bought. Haven't built it yet, but and it's not going to be me. I'm not the one driving it, because in my world, these guys are all. This is gladiator. Imagine a gladiatorial combat in Rome. It's what this is, basically. They're all people that have the death penalty, and they're just out to entertain everyone. And that would work in the current day. There'd be people that would be crying, but if there was like live gladiatorial combat with people that are like really, really bad, like Adolf Hitler level bad, like people would watch that. There's no doubt about that. People, nobody would watch football. Like, now only candy asses watch football, So, you're lucky you're pretty close with my local game shop, and they stock Hot Wheels. They charge $2. That's fine, But they ask me if I want anything when they open a case, and I hold it for me, so it's worth the extra bit I pay. It's a finder's fee. They got to make a bit. Look, I don't know how people can sell these for $1. If you've taken any apart, many of them are a work of art. The Ford Focus. Where's Laser Focus? Laser Focus is one of my favorite cars. Now, it was already painted in this green color. It was already painted in this stripe. It was already painted with all of these sponsors on it. Let's kill this. It already had all these sponsors on it. It already had that RS. It's a Focus RS. Only thing I added was this little laser, which is removable. I used a little piece of stickum, blue tack, green tack, white tack. It was already in this color. Already had all these sponsors on it. What it did not have is any headlights, tail lights, or any of this detail painted on it. So I painted the headlights in. It was almost like the paint department, the people who designed this car wanted to make an accurate representation of this vehicle. And the paint department says, hey, what do you want us to do? We got one fucking color green and this is it. And that's what they did. So all of these lights, none of that was painted. It was all engraved on there. They even had a little Ford logo, the little RS logo that's on there. It's three-dimensional. It's not very 3D, but it's there. So I just kind of filled in the blanks and painted all. And I love doing that kind of stuff. But this was like one color green. That's it. And some striping. So I was able to look at it and go, this has a lot of potential. And I like vehicles that look like the real vehicle. It just, it's just neat. And a lot of them are like that. The paint department just decided not to paint the bits on there. They just decided to put them on there and like, well, we only have access to one color, so tough. This Nova, I personally don't love muscle cars, but muscle cars I think make the best vehicles. This striping on this, why would you repaint this? This is absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous paint scheme. I didn't do it. I just enhanced it and weathered it. Now, the front of it was completely silver, bright-ass reflective chrome. Like, that's not going to work. We got to make it look realistic. Got rust where there's rust. Weathering where there's weathering. Guns, so it has some guns on it. This is Nova Paint. There was no tail lights on it. They were all in there. These weren't painted. I love doing that. Love doing that. Muscle cars are like stellar looking. So, great hobby. Great hobby. And I took all of my tank experience painting and brought it into this world. Like, how come you've only built 4 cars? And it looks because it's not my first thing painting. Like figures. I paint figures. I put figures in these cars. They just don't make figures out there that are easy to get a hold of. Are priced appropriately because there's some figures that are like $20. I'm not paying $20 for a figure. Like I'd love to get some wrappers. They make wrappers because I got one team that's basic. It's called Boombox Carnage. It's all the urban gangsters, right? Gangsters. Wrappers would be perfect for this. They make them in 1/64th scale. Got a lot of personality. Like $18 a piece, $12 a piece. Like I'm not gonna paint that. And it's like sight unseen. I wouldn't want them pre-painted. I'll paint them. I know how to paint figures, So that's why my vehicles don't have crew in them. Not because I don't want to put them. They're just not. Let's go one bigger on this. So that one looks spot on where it needs to be. I'm gonna go ahead and stop now because I'm kind of at a stop point. But anyways, how do I store your cars before you start working on them? Well, the place that I buy them used, they come in little plastic baggies, so you can like scour through them and not ding them up. Because I don't mind the cars being dinged up, but I don't want to extra ding them up just to ding them up. Like this car is all beat up, and we'll make it beat up, and we'll work with this. But I don't want to do that without it. They're usually just in a big. I've got them subdivided into different groups. Like I got one that's like all British cars. I got ones that are the Germans, Italians are in one place. My Asians are all in one place. All my urban gangsters are somewhere else. Construction vehicles. So I can like easy. Okay, I want to do a construction vehicle. I don't want to be called this. I look through, what they are, that kind of stuff. But if you don't put them in a bin like that, they could take up an excruciatingly large space. I've got a lot of space consumed here. This is just kind of things that I've already like pre-washed. Like for instance, this one's going to be Dust Bunny. Okay, this is a rabbit truck, and I've clear coated it. It was already this apple green, and it has a brown wash on it, and it's just waiting to get weaponized. This is even the wheels that it came with. I think it came with these wheels. I'm pretty sure this is a Matchbox, and I don't have a preference between Matchbox or Hot Wheels. They're all good. But I don't have a weapon right now that fits back here. So I'm like, all right, well, we're just going to play a waiting game. I'm not ordering, but there's like a skateboard back here. There's all kinds of stuff you can paint on here. This is going to be a hot chicken truck. It's going to have things that it throws out that are flaming, that kind of stuff. The science van for the Nerd Burglar team. And it's all exaggerated in tune, but a lot of this was chrome, so I just painted it black. So you can chill out a little bit, and we'll paint it metallic, but it needs to be a little bit less. But all these have been had a brown wash done to them, so ready to go to the next stage. I'd start taking them apart. I take more things than I actually need, so that I've got other things to work on. But even with these few vehicles here, they take up quite a bit of space. So if you got hundreds of cars, and you don't put them in a place where you can just kind of store them by bulk, they're going to take up a lot of space. What clear coat? I'm airbrushing an acrylic, but I think I'm going to go back to using a spray can. I always spray can, and then the spray can stuff. This company got discontinued, as you probably well know. And I really like their products. Model Master.
And I used to use Model Master for everything. So something like this, like a clear flat, I don't know how I have this one still left. But they got bought by Rust-Oleum, and Rust-Oleum decided to cancel all of Model Master stuff. So this actually works the best. I use acrylic, so it's never going to interact with this. But using an acrylic coating, the only problem is just I feel like it's not very durable. There's times when I go and apply that wash over it, and it ends up like breaking down the acrylic coating. You're doing a wash is wet, and you're kind of, you're kind of clear. So most of them have the acrylic coating, but I'm probably going to go back using the enamel, at least on the initial coating. Is you want to make it flat so that it's grainy at a microscopic level. That's why it looks flat, because it doesn't reflect the light back. It kind of absorbs it because it's like sandpaper. And because it's sandpaper-ish, obviously on a very micro level, it allows the brown wash to stick to it and not just slide off like off a duck's back. So, yeah, Model Master made great stuff. And then there's just like, it's different. We're going to close the entire company down, and we're not going to do anything else, and we're going to sell it to, Martians, and they're not going to be involved in that anymore. It's like, no, we're going to keep all the shitty products. We're getting like those. Like if Rust-Oleum is going to shut down testers, like stop making the little bottles that are like worthless. The Model Master stuff was good, So, all right, man. Thanks for coming by. Hope to see you soon. Maybe even later on.